At 2 a.m., a single father made a choice that would shatter every boundary he'd ever known. He carried his drunk boss out of a downtown bar, the same woman who held his entire career in her hands. What started as a rescue became a confession. What began as obligation turned into something neither of them could control. This is a story about power, vulnerability, and the dangerous line between professional loyalty and personal truth. If you want to see how one night changed everything, stay until the end. Hit that like button and comment your city so I can see how far this story travels. Let's begin. The glow from Lily's bedroom cast soft yellow light across the hallway as Ethan Cole knelt beside her desk, steadying a cardboard volcano that threatened to collapse under its own weight. Red paint dripped from the crater rim, pooling on newspaper spread across the floor. "Daddy, it's leaning!" Lily's voice carried that particular pitch of 7-year-old panic, the kind that turned minor setbacks into catastrophes. "I see it, sweetheart. Hand me the tape." Ethan pressed his palm against the structure's base, feeling the damp papier-mâché give slightly under pressure. His daughter's small hands fumbled with the roll of masking tape, her tongue poking out in concentration as she pulled off a strip. "Mrs. Patterson said it has to look real," Lily insisted, her dark curls falling forward as she leaned in to examine their work. "Like an actual volcano that could actually explode." "Actually explode," Ethan corrected gently, smoothing the tape along the seam. "And it will. We've got the baking soda and vinegar ready for tomorrow's demonstration, remember?" The kitchen clock read 11:47 p.m., way past bedtime. But Lily's science fair was in 2 days, and Ethan had promised, pinky sworn in the grocery store parking lot, that this year's project would be special. Last year's solar system mobile had been functional. Barely. Saturn's rings had drooped sadly, and Jupiter had lost 3 of its moons by the time judging rolled around. This year would be different. What if it doesn't work? Lily's brown eyes, so much like her mother's it sometimes hurt to look directly at them, widened with worry. What if I pour in the vinegar and nothing happens? Ethan set down the tape and pulled his daughter close, feeling her small frame relax against his chest. She smelled like strawberry shampoo and the faint chemical tang of craft paint. "Then we'll figure out why and fix it." That's what scientists do. They try, they fail, they try again. "Like you in the toaster last week?" He laughed despite himself. "Exactly like me in the toaster, which is now working perfectly, I'll have you know. After you watch 3 YouTube videos. 4, actually. But who's counting?" He kissed the top of her head. "Come on, kiddo. We've done good work tonight. Let's let Mount St. Lily dry overnight." And his phone buzzed against the desk, the vibration sending a pencil rolling toward the edge. Ethan caught it reflexively, glancing at the screen. Unknown number. At midnight on a Tuesday. His thumb hovered over the decline button. Then it buzzed again. Same number. "Daddy, who is it?" Lily craned her neck to see. "Probably a wrong number, sweet." The phone rang a third time, insistent. Something in his gut shifted. Wrong numbers didn't call back. Didn't triple dial with that kind of determination. Ethan answered. "Hello?" Static crackled through the speaker. Background noise, music, loud conversation, the unmistakable din of a crowded bar. Then a voice, slurred but unmistakable. "Ethan? It's Ethan Cole?" His entire body went rigid. He knew that voice. Heard it daily in conference rooms, on phone calls, delivering praise and criticism in equal measure with the same controlled precision. Victoria Hale, his boss, the youngest VP in Meridian Financial's 70-year history. The woman who'd grilled him for 45 minutes during his interview 3 years ago, testing his knowledge of market trends and regulatory frameworks until he'd been certain he'd bombed it. The woman who'd called him into her office his second week and told him, point blank, that he'd need to work twice as hard as everyone else to prove he belonged. The same woman who sounded, right now, absolutely wasted. "Miss Hale?" Ethan stood, moving toward the hallway, away from Lily's curious ears. "Are you all right?" "I'm fine. I'm perfectly fine." The words ran together, consonants soft and edges blurred. "Just needed to. There's a guy here. Won't leave me alone." Ethan's free hand gripped the doorframe. "Where are you?" "Downtown. That place. The one with the thing." Victoria's laugh was brittle, desperate. The lights, blue lights. Can you? Her voice dropped to a whisper. I can't go home like this. Can't let him. Please. I know it's not. I shouldn't have called, but I couldn't think of anyone else who wouldn't. The line went dead. Ethan stared at his phone, his mind racing through scenarios, each worse than the last. Victoria Hale didn't make mistakes, didn't show weakness, didn't call junior employees at midnight sounding like she was 2 drinks past rational decision-making, which meant something was very, very wrong. Daddy? Lily appeared in the doorway, volcano paint-stained fingers gripping the frame. Do you have to go? He looked at his daughter, at the trust in her eyes, the project they'd worked on together, the promise of tucking her in and reading one more chapter of the book they'd started last week. Then he thought of Victoria's voice, thin and scared in a way he'd never heard before. Yeah, baby, I do. Ethan crouched to her level. Something's happened. Someone needs help. From work? From work, he confirmed, hating the resignation that flickered across her face. She was 7. She should be disappointed when her father left in the middle of volcano construction. She shouldn't be used to it. But she was. Mrs. Chen can come stay with you, Ethan said, already pulling up his neighbor's contact. Just for a couple hours. I'll be back before you wake up, promise. Lily nodded slowly. Is it important? More important than finishing a science project? Than bedtime stories and pinky promises? Than being the father he'd sworn to be after Amanda left? Ethan didn't know, but he thought about that fear in Victoria's voice, about the guy who wouldn't leave her alone, about how she'd said she couldn't think of anyone else to call. Yeah, lily pad, it's important. Mrs. Chen arrived in 15 minutes, wrapped in a quilted bathrobe and smelling of jasmine tea. She asked no questions, bless her, just shooed Ethan toward the door with instructions to drive safely and take his time. Lily was already half asleep on the couch, curled under her favorite blanket with Mr. Whiskers, the threadbare cat she'd had since she was 2. Ethan kissed her forehead one more time. Love you, kiddo. Love you more, she mumbled, eyes already closed. The drive into downtown Seattle should have taken 20 minutes. Ethan made it in 12, breaking at least 3 traffic laws and running 1 definitely yellow light. His hands gripped the steering wheel tight enough to ache, his mind churning through everything he knew about Victoria Hale. She'd been with Meridian for 8 years, climbing from analyst to VP in a trajectory that defied every norm in their conservative industry. She was brilliant, capable of holding entire market models in her head, of reading between lines in client presentations that everyone else missed. She was also ruthless. She'd fired 2 managers in Ethan's first year for what she called complacency masquerading as experience. She'd reduced a cocky new hire to tears during a quarterly review for padding his performance metrics. She demanded excellence because she delivered it herself, consistently and without apology. She also worked 16-hour days, answered emails at 3 a.m., and never, ever asked for help. Until tonight. Downtown Seattle glowed with artificial life. Neon signs reflecting off rain-slicked streets, clusters of people spilling out of bars and restaurants, laughter and music bleeding through closed car windows. Ethan cruised slowly down 2nd Avenue, scanning for blue lights. There. The Sapphire Room. Upscale cocktail lounge, the kind of place where drinks cost $20 and came with names like Midnight in Manhattan and The Last Word. Not Victoria's usual scene, she was more likely to be found at the office with takeout from the Thai place on 4th, but he could see how someone might end up here. Corporate happy hours. Client entertainment. Or just a night when going home alone felt unbearable. He found parking half a block down, fed the meter more quarters than necessary, and jogged back toward the bar. The bouncer, a mountain of a man with a shaved head and a bored expression, barely glanced at him before waving him through. Inside, the Sapphire Room lived up to its name. Blue LED strips lined the ceiling and bar, casting everything in an aquatic glow. Electronic music pulsed from speakers, not quite loud enough to prevent conversation, but definitely loud enough to require raised voices. The crowd skewed young and professional. Suits with loosened ties, dresses that cost more than Ethan's monthly grocery budget. The calculated casualness of people who worked too hard and played harder. He scanned the room, searching for Victoria's distinctive profile. Dark hair cut in a precise bob. Elegant posture even when she was exhausted. The way she held a glass, always with both hands, like she was cradling something precious. He found her in the back corner, cornered, literally cornered, by a man in an expensive suit who'd planted one hand against the wall beside her head. Victoria's shoulders were rigid, her jaw set in a way Ethan recognized from meetings when she was 2 seconds from unleashing hell on someone. But she was also swaying slightly, gripping her purse with white-knuckled intensity. Trapped. The man leaned closer, saying something Ethan couldn't hear over the music. Victoria turned her face away, pressing back against the wall. Ethan didn't think. He moved. "There you are!" He injected his voice with relief and familiarity, sliding between bar patrons with apologies and excuse-me's. "Sorry I'm late. Traffic was murder." The man straightened, irritation flashing across his features. "Do you mind? We're having a private conversation." "Actually, we were just leaving." Ethan locked eyes with Victoria, trying to communicate calm. Safety. "I've got you." "Ready to go, Vic?" He'd never called her Vic in his life. Never would have dared. But right now, in this moment, he needed the man to believe they were together, familiar, that Ethan had every right to interrupt. Victoria's eyes widened slightly. Surprise, recognition, and something that looked dangerously close to tears. She nodded, pushing off the wall with careful precision. "Yes. Leaving. Let's leave." "Hey, wait a minute." The man grabbed Victoria's arm and Ethan felt something cold and sharp crystallize in his chest. "You said you didn't have a boyfriend." "I said," Victoria's voice regained some of its boardroom steel, "that I wasn't interested. There's a difference." "You've been leading me on for the past hour." "She's been trying to get rid of you for the past hour," Ethan cut in, stepping fully between them now. He wasn't a big guy. 5'10", average build, the kind of frame that came from running after a 7-year-old rather than dedicated gym time. But he planted his feet and made himself immovable. "And now she's leaving. With me." For a moment, the man looked ready to escalate. His jaw worked, muscles tensing under his tailored jacket. Then he caught sight of something over Ethan's shoulder, probably the bouncer who'd started paying attention, and backed off with a theatrical eye roll. "Whatever. Your loss, sweetheart. I was just being friendly." Victoria's response was quiet but cutting. "Your definition of friendly needs work." The man melted back into the crowd, already scanning for his next target. Ethan felt Victoria sag slightly against his shoulder, her breath shaky. "Thank you." The words were barely audible. "I'm so sorry. I shouldn't have called. This is so inappropriate." "Let's get you out of here first," Ethan said gently, guiding her toward the exit. "Then we can worry about appropriate." The cool night air hit them like a blessing. Victoria sucked in a deep breath, then another, her hands trembling as she fumbled with her purse. "I need to call a car. Can you—" "My phone. I can't find my phone." "I've got you." Ethan steadied her with one hand while pulling out his own phone. "Where do you need to go?" "Home?" Victoria's laugh was hollow. "No, not home. Marcus is there, getting his things. Final pickup." She swayed and Ethan caught her elbow. "Divorce finalized Friday. He's taking the last of his stuff tonight. Can't go home like this. Can't let him see me like this." Marcus Hale. Ethan had met him once, at a company holiday party 2 years ago. Investment banker. Confident to the point of arrogance. The kind of guy who talked over people at dinner parties and probably referred to his wife as the wife in conversations with his buddies. "Okay," Ethan said slowly. "Not home. How about a hotel? I can drop you somewhere comfortable. Make sure you get checked in safely. No hotels. He'll find out somehow. Everything's so public right now. The divorce." Victoria pressed her palms against her eyes. "I just needed one night to not be the youngest VP going through a public split. One night to just fall apart quietly." Ethan stood on a downtown sidewalk at 1:15 in the morning, his drunk boss leaning against his shoulder, and faced a decision that could define the rest of his career. Leave her at a hotel, maintain professional boundaries, go home to Lily, or offer her the one place Marcus Hale would never look, the one place she could fall apart quietly. "My apartment," he heard himself say. It's small. There's a couch, but it's quiet, and Marcus has never been there. You can decompress, get some sleep, figure out next steps in the morning when you're sober. Victoria lifted her head, her dark eyes searching his face. Ethan, I can't. That's so far beyond. I know. He did know. Knew exactly how many lines they'd be crossing. Knew that if anyone found out, the optics would be career-ending. Junior employee takes drunk boss home? HR would have a field day. But you called me because you needed help, and I'm not leaving you like this. So it's my apartment or a hotel where someone will definitely see you, and someone will definitely talk. Your choice. The silence stretched between them, punctuated by distant traffic and the muffled bass from inside the Sapphire room. Finally, Victoria nodded. Once. Decisive even while intoxicated. Your apartment, but just tonight, and we never talk about this again. Deal. Ethan guided her toward his car, acutely aware of her weight against his side, the way her expensive perfume mixed with the smell of whiskey, the trust she was placing in him despite every logical reason not to. His phone buzzed. Text from Mrs. Chen. Lily's asleep. Take your time. Everything okay? He typed back with one hand. Getting there. Be home in a few hours. Thanks so much. Everything was not okay. Everything was so far from okay that Ethan couldn't even see okay from where he currently stood. But he had his boss in his passenger seat, her head tilted against the window, eyes closed, looking smaller and more vulnerable than he'd ever imagined possible. And he'd made a promise. The drive to Ethan's apartment complex in Fremont took 25 minutes of careful navigation, Victoria dozing fitfully in the passenger seat. She woke when he turned off the engine, blinking slowly at the modest 3-story building with its aging brick facade and slightly crooked Fremont Arms Apartments sign. This is yours? She asked, her voice clearer now but still edged with exhaustion. This is it. Nothing fancy, but the rent's reasonable and the neighbors are quiet. Ethan came around to help her out of the car. Apartment 2C, second floor, no elevator, sorry. I can walk, Victoria insisted, then proved it by making it exactly 3 steps before her heel caught on a crack in the pavement. Ethan caught her before she fell, his arm sliding around her waist. Pride's great, he said mildly, but we're going with practicality right now, okay? She didn't argue, just leaned into his support as they navigated the stairs, each step careful and measured. The hallway smelled like someone had cooked curry earlier. Mrs. Patel in 2A, probably. Amazing cook, but heavy-handed with the spices. Ethan fumbled his keys from his pocket, juggling Victoria's weight and the lock mechanism. The door swung open, and Ethan saw his apartment through Victoria's eyes. Small living room with a couch he'd bought used off Craigslist. Coffee table scarred with crayon marks from Lily's artistic phases. Television that was a decade old but still worked fine. Kitchen visible through an open archway, clean but cramped, with alphabet magnets holding Lily's drawings on the refrigerator. Hallway leading to 2 bedrooms and a bathroom. It was clean. Lived in. Undeniably modest. Victoria took it in without comment, her executive assessment skills apparently surviving intoxication. Ethan guided her to the couch, where she sank down with a sigh that seemed to come from her bones. Water? He offered. Coffee? I've got crackers if you need something in your stomach. Water, please. Victoria closed her eyes, tilting her head back against the cushions. And your phone. I should call Marcus. Make sure he's gone before morning. Ethan brought her a glass of water and watched as she drank half of it in one long pull. You want privacy for that call? No, stay. It wasn't a command exactly. More like a request from someone who didn't want to be alone with whatever conversation she was about to have. He settled into the armchair across from her as Victoria dialed, putting the phone on speaker. It rang 4 times before Marcus Hale's voice, smooth and irritated, filled the small living room. It's past 1 in the morning, Victoria. I know what time it is. Are you still at the house? A pause, background noise, rustling, a door closing. Just finished loading the last box. I was about to lock up and leave the key under the mat like we discussed. Good. Thank you. Victoria's voice was rigidly professional. I'll be home in the morning. Please make sure everything's locked properly. Where are you? That's no longer your concern. Jesus, Vic, are you drunk? You sound... Goodbye, Marcus. She ended the call with deliberate precision, setting the phone down on the coffee table like it might bite her. There, he's gone. I can go home in a few hours. Sober up. Pretend this night never happened. You don't have to pretend, Ethan said quietly. Not here. Victoria looked at him then, really looked at him. Her makeup was smudged, dark circles evident beneath her eyes, hair falling from its normally perfect style. She looked human, breakable. Why did you come? She asked. I called you at midnight, drunk and desperate. You have a daughter at home. You could have ignored it. Probably should have ignored it. Ethan leaned forward, elbows on his knees. You sounded scared. I wasn't going to ignore that. Even though I'm your boss? Even though this could be complicated? Especially because you're my boss. You're the person who hired me when I was desperate for a job that could support Lily. You're the person who gave me a chance when a dozen other firms passed me over because I didn't have the right pedigree or the right connections. He held her gaze. You needed help. That's all that mattered. Victoria's eyes glistened, tears threatening to spill over. She blinked them back forcefully. I've been so hard on you, harder than anyone else in the department. Do you know why? Because I'm not good enough? The words came out lighter than he felt. Because you're too good. Victoria's laugh was bitter. You're smarter than half the senior managers. Your analysis is consistently the sharpest in any meeting. You see angles other people miss. And I've been terrified that someone upstairs would notice and push you past me, that you'd become my competition instead of my employee. The admission hung in the air between them, raw and honest. So I kept you down, Victoria continued, her voice dropping to a whisper. Gave you impossible deadlines, criticized your work even when it was excellent, made sure you stayed in your lane because I was scared. Because in this industry, being a young woman at the executive level means constantly defending your territory. And you, she gestured vaguely. You threatened that territory just by being good at your job. Ethan sat back, processing. He'd known Victoria pushed him harder than others, had assumed it was because he was a single parent that she thought he'd be distracted or unreliable, had never imagined it was because she saw him as a threat. The Westfield presentation, he said slowly. The one due next week. You've been stressed about it. Victoria nodded miserably. I can't crack it. The client wants innovative investment strategies that balance risk and long-term growth, and everything I draft feels derivative. Stale. I've been staring at spreadsheets for 3 weeks and I've got nothing. I finished it. Victoria's head snapped up. What? I finished it. Last week. Not because you asked me to, because you didn't. But I could see you were drowning and I had the bandwidth, so I put together a proposal. Ethan stood, moving to his small home office, really just a desk shoved in the corner of his bedroom, and returned with a folder. It's not perfect. Might not even be what you're looking for, but it's yours if you want it. He handed her the folder. Victoria opened it with shaking hands, her eyes scanning the pages. Ethan had spent hours on the analysis, building a portfolio strategy that incorporated emerging markets with sustainable energy investments, balanced against traditional blue-chip stability. Graphs, projections, risk assessments. This is, Victoria's voice cracked. This is exactly what I needed. Better than what I needed. This is brilliant. It's a starting point, Ethan said, suddenly embarrassed. You'd make it better. You always do. Why? Victoria looked up at him, tears finally spilling over. After everything I've put you through, why would you do this? Ethan thought about Lily's volcano, about pinky promises and dedication that had nothing to do with recognition or advancement. Because it needed to be done. And because despite everything, I believe in what we're doing at Meridian, in the work, in the team, in you. Even when you're terrified I'm going to overtake you. I don't deserve that faith. Maybe not. But you're getting it anyway. Victoria set the folder aside carefully, like it was precious. Then she did something Ethan never expected. She started to cry. Not delicate tears, but full-body sobs that shook her shoulders and made her gasp for breath. Years of control, of maintaining the perfect executive facade, crumbling in his modest living room at 2 a.m. Ethan moved to the couch, sitting beside her but not touching. It's okay, he said quietly. You're allowed to fall apart sometimes. I don't fall apart. I can't. But she was, and she kept crying, and Ethan just sat there, a steady presence while she purged whatever poison had been building inside her. Eventually, the sobs quieted to hiccups. Victoria accepted the tissues he offered, dabbing at her face with the self-conscious awareness of someone who'd just shown more vulnerability than they'd shown in years. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "Don't be. This is so unprofessional." "We stopped being professional the minute you called me at midnight," Ethan pointed out. "Right now, you're just a person who's had a terrible day, and I'm just a person trying to help." Victoria looked around the apartment again, her gaze landing on the photos on the wall. Lily at the beach last summer, grinning with sand in her hair. Lily's kindergarten graduation. Lily holding a ribbon from her first soccer game. "Your daughter," Victoria said. "She's beautiful. What's her name?" "Lily. She just turned 7. "Where's her mother?" Ethan's jaw tightened. "Gone. Left when Lily was 3. Decided single motherhood wasn't what she signed up for." "I'm sorry." "Don't be. We're better off without her." He meant it. Amanda had been mercurial, unpredictable, the kind of person who brought chaos wherever she went. Losing her had hurt, but raising Lily alone had been the best thing that ever happened to him. Victoria traced the rim of her water glass with one finger. "I always wanted children. Marcus didn't. Said kids would interfere with our careers, with his career, really. I agreed because I thought if I sacrificed enough, worked hard enough, proved I could be both successful and devoted, he'd change his mind." She laughed without humor. "He didn't. He found someone younger, someone less complicated, someone who didn't threaten his ego by being competent." "His loss," Ethan said, echoing his own words about Amanda. "His loss," Victoria repeated. "So why does it feel like I lost?" "Because you invested everything, and when you invest everything in something that fails, the returns are catastrophic." Ethan picked up the Westfield folder. "But you're not actually broken, Victoria. You're exhausted. There's a difference." She considered this. "I've been the youngest VP for 3 years. Do you know what that means? It means everyone's waiting for me to fail, to prove I only got here because of luck or affirmative action or sleeping with the right people. It means I can't afford to be human, can't afford nights like this. Everyone's human, even VPs." Ethan stood, moving to the kitchen. "I'm making coffee, real coffee, not the break room sludge. And then you're going to drink it, sober up enough to think clearly, and decide what you actually want to do next. Not what Marcus wants, not what the board wants, what you want." He busied himself with the coffee maker, giving Victoria space to collect herself. When he returned with 2 mugs, one that said, "World's okayest dad," a gift from Lily last Father's Day, and one plain white one for Victoria, she'd regained some of her composure. "Thank you," she said, accepting the mug. "For the coffee, for everything." "You're welcome." They drank in comfortable silence, the kind that didn't need filling with nervous chatter. Outside, Seattle's night sounds filtered through the windows. Distant sirens, the hum of late-night traffic, the occasional laugh from someone walking home from the bars. Victoria set down her mug. "Can I ask you something personal? After tonight, I think we've blown past the personal boundary." "How do you do it?" "The balance, work and parenting. You're always here, at the office, I mean. Always available, always delivering quality work. But you're also present for her." She gestured at the photos. "How?" Ethan shrugged. "I'm not always here. I leave at 5:30 every day, no exceptions. I miss networking events, turn down late meetings, set hard boundaries about weekends, and I've accepted that I'll probably never make VP because of it. That doesn't bother you?" "It used to. Then Lily asked me if I loved work more than her, and I realized I'd been sacrificing the wrong things." He met Victoria's eyes. "I'm good at my job. Really good. But I'm Lily's only parent. There's no substitute for that. No promotion worth missing her childhood." "I wish I'd learned that lesson earlier," Victoria said softly. "About priorities. About what actually matters. It's not too late. Isn't it? I'm 34, divorced, no children. Married to a career that demands everything and gives back ulcers and insomnia." She laughed. "What a prize." You're 34, brilliant, accomplished, and free to remake your life however you want, Ethan countered. That sounds like opportunity to me. Victoria studied him with an expression he couldn't quite read. You're surprisingly wise for a junior analyst. I've had to grow up fast. Single parenting will do that. And yet you still make time for volcano projects at midnight. Wait, you heard about that? Ethan grinned. Lily's science fair is Thursday. We're competing against kids whose parents are engineers and actual scientists. Our volcano needs to be spectacular. I'm sure it will be. They fell silent again, but this time the silence felt different, charged with something unspoken. Victoria was looking at him differently now, not as her subordinate, not as the employee she needed to keep in check, but as someone who'd seen her at her worst and hadn't flinched. I should let you sleep, Ethan said, standing. You can take my bed. I'll crash on the couch. Absolutely not. I'm not kicking you out of your own bed. Victoria, you're drunk, emotionally exhausted, and in heels that probably cost more than my car payment. You're taking the bed. It's non-negotiable. She opened her mouth to argue, then closed it. Fine. But only because arguing requires energy I don't have. Ethan showed her to his bedroom. Small, neat, dominated by a queen bed with a simple gray comforter. He pulled out a t-shirt and sweatpants from his dresser. These'll be huge on you, but they're clean. Bathrooms across the hall. Towels are under the sink if you want a shower. Victoria took the clothes, her fingers brushing his. Ethan? Yeah? Why are you being so kind to me? He considered the question, thought about power dynamics and professional hierarchies and all the rational reasons he should have left her at a hotel. Thought about Lily's question, is it important? Because you needed someone to be kind, he said finally, and because underneath the VP title and the corner office, you're just a person who's having a really hard time. That's enough. Victoria's eyes filled again, but she blinked the tears back. I'll make this right. Professionally, I mean, the way I've treated you. It wasn't fair. We can talk about that Monday. Monday, she agreed. Ethan left her to change, closing the door gently behind him. He stood in the hallway for a moment, letting the weight of the night settle over him. He'd just brought his boss home, his drunk, vulnerable, emotionally compromised boss. This could end his career, could end hers, could blow up spectacularly in ways he hadn't even considered yet. But when he'd seen her cornered in that bar, scared and alone, none of that had mattered. He texted Mrs. Chen. Going to be a while longer. Emergency at work. So sorry. Her reply came immediately. No worries, Lily's fine. You take care of what you need to. Ethan settled onto the couch, pulling a spare blanket from the hall closet. The apartment was quiet now, just the hum of the refrigerator and the occasional creak of old pipes. Through his bedroom door, he heard water running as Victoria showered. His phone buzzed. Email from the office. Automated reminder about the Westfield presentation, due Monday morning. He thought about the folder he'd given Victoria, about weeks of work he'd done without being asked, without expecting recognition. Maybe that was the difference between them. Victoria fought for every inch of territory, terrified of losing ground. Ethan just did the work because it needed doing. Neither approach was wrong. Neither was entirely right. But tonight had shifted something fundamental between them. Crossed wires that couldn't be uncrossed. Spoken truths that couldn't be unspoken. The bedroom door opened. Victoria emerged in his clothes. The t-shirt hanging to her knees, sweatpants rolled at the waist, looking nothing like the polished executive who commanded boardrooms. She looked young, uncertain. I can't sleep, she admitted. My brain won't shut off. Ethan sat up, making room on the couch. Want to talk about it? She sat, curling her legs under her. I keep thinking about what you said, about priorities, about what actually matters. And I realize I don't know anymore. I've been so focused on defending my position, on proving I deserve to be VP, that I've forgotten why I wanted it in the first place. Why did you want it? Victoria was quiet for a long moment. My father told me I'd never make it in finance, that it was a boys' club and I should focus on getting married and having babies like my sisters. She smiled without warmth. I wanted to prove him wrong. Every promotion, every success, it was all about proving him wrong. Did you? He died 5 years ago, never saw me make VP, never admitted I'd proven anything. She turned to look at Ethan. So I just kept climbing, thinking the next level would feel like enough. But it never does. What would enough look like? I don't know. Maybe that's the problem. Victoria pulled the blanket tighter around her shoulders. What about you? What does enough look like? Ethan didn't hesitate. Lily, happy and healthy, bills paid, meaningful work that doesn't consume my entire life. Maybe eventually someone to share it with, but that's not urgent. That's enough. It sounds simple. It is simple. Doesn't mean it's easy. Victoria laughed softly. Nothing about you is what I expected, Ethan Cole. What did you expect? Someone hungrier, more ambitious, someone who'd see tonight as an opportunity to leverage. Leverage you how? I don't know. Demand a promotion, better assignments, threaten to go to HR about the inappropriate phone call from a drunk superior. She met his eyes. You could, You'd probably win. I'm not interested in winning at your expense, Ethan said. I'm interested in doing good work with people I respect. And despite the rocky relationship, I do respect you, Victoria. You're brilliant and dedicated, and you've built something remarkable. You just got lost along the way. Are you always this honest? Usually. It gets me in trouble. I can imagine. Victoria studied him with an intensity that made him shift uncomfortably. The presentation, the one you finished, why didn't you bring it to me directly? Why wait until tonight? Because you weren't ready to accept help. You needed to hit bottom first, needed to realize you can't carry everything alone. He paused. I know that feeling. After Amanda left, I tried to be everything for Lily. Perfect parent, perfect employee, perfect at managing a household and finances and all the invisible labor that comes with single parenting. I nearly broke myself before I learned to ask for help. Who helped you? Mrs. Chen, my neighbor. She watches Lily sometimes, brings us dinner when I'm swamped. Mrs. Patel down the hall taught me to cook basic meals that Lily would actually eat. The community center offered free after-school programs. It wasn't one person. It was a network. People willing to step in when I needed them. I don't have that, Victoria said quietly. I have colleagues who'd stab me in the back for a promotion. An ex-husband who couldn't leave fast enough. Parents who never believed in me. I've spent so long protecting myself that I never built the kind of support system you're describing. You could start now. With you. There was something vulnerable in the question, something that suggested she was asking about more than just professional mentorship. Ethan chose his words carefully. I can't be your therapist or your replacement husband, but I can be someone who tells you the truth, who does good work and expects you to do the same, who reminds you that being human isn't the same as being weak. That's more than I have now. Then it's a start. They sat together as the night deepened toward morning, talking about everything and nothing. Victoria told him about her first job out of college, working for a firm that folded during the 2008 crash, about rebuilding her career from scratch, taking positions beneath her skill level just to stay employed, about the mentor who'd believed in her when no one else did, and how his retirement had left her feeling untethered. Ethan talked about Amanda's departure, about the surreal experience of waking up to find half the apartment empty and a note on the kitchen table, about Lily's first day of kindergarten, how she'd cried and clung to his leg until the teacher gently pried her away, about the small victories, soccer goals, perfect spelling tests, bedtime stories that turned into philosophical discussions about dinosaurs and space. Somewhere around 4 a.m., Victoria fell asleep mid-sentence, her head tilting against the couch cushion. Ethan watched her for a moment. Her face relaxed in sleep, the worry lines smoothed away, and felt something shift in his chest. This was dangerous, not just professionally but personally. She was his boss. She held his career in her hands. Getting emotionally involved, even platonically, was a risk he couldn't afford. But looking at her now, vulnerable and trusting in a way she probably never allowed herself to be, Ethan knew it was already too late for caution. He stood carefully, pulling the blanket over Victoria's sleeping form. She murmured something incoherent but didn't wake. Ethan retreated to his bedroom, closing the door quietly. His phone showed 4:17 a.m. In a few hours, Lily would wake up, full of energy and questions about the volcano. Mrs. Chen would need to go home. The real world would reassert itself with all its complications and consequences. But right now, in this strange, suspended moment, Ethan let himself acknowledge a truth he'd been avoiding all night. He cared about Victoria Hale, not just as a boss or a colleague, but as a person. A complicated, brilliant, damaged person who'd trusted him when she had no reason to. And that was going to make Monday very, very interesting. Ethan woke to sunlight streaming through his bedroom window and the distinct smell of coffee brewing. For a disoriented moment, he thought he'd overslept, that he'd somehow missed Lily's morning routine and Mrs. Chen had taken over breakfast duties. Then memory crashed back. Victoria, the bar, the late-night confessions, all of it. He sat up too quickly, his neck protesting from the awkward angle he'd slept at. The bedside clock read 7:43 a.m. He'd managed maybe 2 hours of actual sleep, and his body felt every minute of it. Voices drifted from the kitchen, one high and bright, Lily. The other lower, measured, unmistakably Victoria's. Ethan pulled on a sweatshirt and padded down the hallway, stopping short at what he saw. Victoria Hale, youngest VP in Meridian Financial's history, sat at his small kitchen table in his oversized t-shirt and sweatpants, her hair pulled back in a messy ponytail, listening with complete attention as Lily explained the intricacies of volcano construction. The cardboard mountain sat between them, slightly lopsided, but proudly displaying its red-painted crater. And then, Lily was saying, her hands moving animatedly, we pour in the vinegar and it reacts with the baking soda, and boom, lava everywhere. That's a chemical reaction, Victoria said, and there was genuine interest in her voice. An acid-base reaction specifically. The vinegar is acetic acid and the baking soda is sodium bicarbonate. When they combine, they produce carbon dioxide gas, which creates the eruption effect. Lily's eyes went wide. You know about science? I know about a lot of things, including how to make a volcano that won't fall over during the big demonstration. Victoria gently adjusted the base, reinforcing a weak spot with her fingers. May I? Lily nodded eagerly, and together they worked on stabilizing the structure. Victoria's movements were careful, precise. The same focus she brought to financial projections now applied to papier-mâché and paint. Ethan stood frozen in the hallway, watching his two worlds collide in the most unexpected way. Mrs. Chen appeared from the living room, carrying her purse and a knowing smile. Your friend arrived early, she said quietly to Ethan. Very nice lady, good with children. She patted his arm. Lily's had breakfast. I'm heading home now. You call if you need anything, yes? Thank you, Mrs. Chen. Really, I owe you. You owe me nothing. This is what neighbors do. She glanced back at the kitchen, where Lily was now showing Victoria her collection of rocks. Because geologists study volcanoes too, and I'm going to be a geologist, astronaut, veterinarian. She seems kind. Sad, but kind. You take care of her. Before Ethan could clarify that Victoria wasn't what Mrs. Chen clearly thought she was, his neighbor had slipped out the door with a wave. Ethan entered the kitchen. Good morning. Lily jumped up, launching herself at him. Daddy! Miss Victoria knows everything about volcanoes, and she had coffee with me, and she said my project is really good. Miss Victoria is very smart, Ethan agreed, catching Victoria's eye over Lily's head. She looked better than she had at 4 a.m., more alert, less haunted, but there were still shadows under her eyes and a tightness around her mouth that suggested a spectacular hangover. How are you feeling? He asked. Like I drank half a bottle of whiskey and poured my soul out to my employee, Victoria said dryly. So, appropriately terrible. She stood, moving to the coffee maker. I made coffee. Hope that's okay. I couldn't sleep after about 6, and I thought, well, coffee seemed safer than wandering your apartment. Coffee's perfect. Ethan poured himself a cup, noting that Victoria had found his good beans, the ones he saved for weekends, and had brewed it stronger than he usually did. She'd also located the sugar and cream, setting them out on the counter with the same organizational efficiency she brought to board meetings. Miss Victoria says she works with you, Lily announced, reclaiming Victoria's attention. Are you her boss? Ethan nearly choked on his coffee. Victoria's lips twitched in what might have been amusement. Actually, Victoria said, I'm your dad's boss. He works on my team. Lily processed this with 7-year-old logic. So you tell him what to do? Sometimes, when we're at the office. And he has to listen to you? Usually he does. Your father's very good at his job. Lily beamed with pride. He's good at everything, except the toaster. He's bad at the toaster. The toaster works now, Ethan protested weakly. After 4 YouTube videos, Lily reminded him, and Victoria actually laughed. A real laugh, not the controlled professional sound he'd heard in meetings. I'm terrible with technology, Victoria admitted. I once called IT because I couldn't get my monitor to turn on. Turns out I'd unplugged it while moving my desk. See, Daddy? Everyone's bad at something. Wise words, Ethan said. Now, wise geologist, astronaut, veterinarian, what do you say we let Miss Victoria have some breakfast while you get ready for your playdate at Emma's? But the volcano said, we'll be here when you get back. I promise. He kissed the top of her head. Go brush your teeth and pack your backpack. Emma's mom is picking you up in 30 minutes. Lily bounced off toward the bathroom, leaving Ethan and Victoria alone in the kitchen. The silence felt different in daylight, less intimate, more awkward. They were two professionals who'd crossed lines that couldn't be uncrossed, now standing in a kitchen that smelled like coffee and children's paint supplies. She's wonderful, Victoria said finally. Smart, curious. You're doing an amazing job with her. Thanks. She's pretty great. Ethan refilled his coffee, buying time. Listen, about last night. I remember everything. Victoria's voice was steady, but her hands trembled slightly as she set down her mug. Everything I said, everything you said, everything I revealed. Okay? And I need you to know that I meant what I said, about how I've treated you, about my fears and my failures as a manager. She met his eyes directly. But I also need you to understand that this, last night, this morning, all of it, can't happen again. We have to compartmentalize. Professional boundaries exist for a reason. Ethan nodded slowly. I understand. Do you? Because this could destroy both our careers if anyone found out. Junior employee brings drunk boss home, spends the night, even if nothing happened, and nothing did happen. The optics are catastrophic. I know. He did know, had known it last night when he made the choice to help her anyway. So what do we do now? Victoria was quiet for a long moment, her executive brain clearly working through scenarios and consequences. We go back to the office on Monday and act like this never happened. I use your presentation, with full credit to you because I'm not stealing your work, and we nail the Westfield account. You continue doing excellent work, and I continue managing the team. Professional. Appropriate. No more late-night phone calls. And the other stuff? Ethan asked. The honest conversations? The admissions about how you've been managing me. That changes. Has to change. Victoria straightened, and he could see her rebuilding the walls in real time, brick by brick. I'll be fair with you going forward. No more sabotaging your work or holding you back out of fear. You deserve better than that. But we can't be friends. Can't be whatever this was last night. The power dynamic makes it impossible. What if I don't want to pretend it never happened? The words were out before Ethan could stop them. Victoria's expression flickered. Surprise, then something that might have been longing, quickly suppressed. It doesn't matter what we want. It matters what's appropriate, what's sustainable. And this isn't. She was right. Ethan knew she was right. But standing in his kitchen, watching her interact with Lily, seeing her be human instead of just competent, it had shifted something fundamental in how he saw her. I should go, Victoria said, setting down her coffee cup with deliberate care. Call a car service. Get home and deal with the aftermath of Marcus and the divorce and all the other messes I've made. You could stay for breakfast, Ethan offered. Lily would love it, and you should probably eat something before facing all that. Ethan. His name was a warning, a boundary being drawn. I can't. Because it's inappropriate or because you're scared. Victoria's jaw tightened. Both. Either. Does it matter? Yeah, actually, it does. Ethan moved closer, close enough to see the tiny flecks of gold in her brown eyes, close enough to smell the coffee on her breath. If you're leaving because it's the smart professional choice, I respect that. But if you're leaving because you're terrified of letting anyone see you as something other than the perfect VP, then you're making the same mistake that got you drunk and alone in a bar last night. You don't get to analyze me, Victoria said, but there was no heat in it. I'm not analyzing, I'm observing. There's a difference. He stepped back, giving her space. But you're right about one thing. This is your choice. Stay or go. I'm not going to push. Victoria stood at his kitchen counter, war clearly raging behind her eyes. Professional versus personal. Safe versus honest. The armor she'd worn for years versus the vulnerability she'd allowed last night. Lily's voice rang out from the bathroom. "Daddy, I can't find my purple scrunchie." "Check the laundry basket," Ethan called back, then turned to Victoria. "Offer stands. Breakfast, then I'll drive you home. No expectations. Just food and maybe making sure you're actually okay before you go back to your life." "Why are you being so nice to me?" Victoria asked, and it was the same question from last night, but now it carried different weight. "Because someone should be," Ethan said simply. The doorbell rang. Emma's mom, early as always. Lily thundered out of the bathroom, backpack bouncing, purple scrunchie secured in her hair. "Remember your manners at Emma's," Ethan said, crouching to straighten her collar, "and be back by dinner time." "I will." "Bye, Daddy." "Bye, Miss Victoria." Lily hugged them both with the unconscious affection of childhood, then raced out the door calling goodbyes to Mrs. Patterson. The apartment felt very quiet after she left. Victoria broke the silence first. "I'll stay for breakfast, but then I really do need to go home." "Deal." Ethan cooked while Victoria sat at the table, and they fell into a rhythm that felt surprisingly natural. He scrambled eggs while she made toast. He set out plates while she refilled coffee cups. They moved around each other in the small kitchen with careful courtesy, not quite touching but aware of each other's presence in a way that felt charged with possibility. "When did Amanda leave?" Victoria asked as they ate. Ethan had been expecting the question eventually. 4 years ago, Lily was 3. Amanda said she felt trapped, that motherhood wasn't what she'd imagined, that she needed to find herself. He stabbed at his eggs. She found herself in Portland with a yoga instructor named Derek. Last I heard, they were opening a wellness retreat. "Do you still love her?" "No, I'm not sure I ever really did, honestly. We were young and reckless and thought passion was the same as compatibility." He looked up at Victoria. "What about you? Do you still love Marcus?" "I don't know. I loved who I thought he was. The supportive partner who believed in my career. Turns out that version only existed as long as I didn't outpace him professionally." Victoria's smile was bitter. "The moment I made VP and he was still a senior manager at his firm, everything changed. Suddenly my success was threatening instead of impressive." "His insecurity isn't your fault." "No, but my response to it was, I made myself smaller, downplayed my achievements, stopped talking about work at home because it made him uncomfortable." She shook her head. "And it still wasn't enough. He still cheated. Still left." "For someone younger," you said. 26. Works in his firm's marketing department. Apparently she thinks he's brilliant and doesn't challenge his ideas in meetings." Victoria's laugh was harsh. "I hope she enjoys that. I hope she never develops her own opinions or ambitions, because the moment she does, she'll learn what I learned." They finished breakfast in contemplative silence. Ethan cleared the plates, loading them into the dishwasher while Victoria stood at the window, looking out at the street below. "I have a confession," she said. "Another one?" "I wasn't completely drunk last night. I mean, I was drunk, but not as drunk as I let you believe." She turned to face him. "I called you specifically because I knew you'd come. Knew you were decent enough to help, even though I've been terrible to you. And some part of me wanted, I don't know, to see if someone could still see me as human instead of just a title." Ethan processed this. "So last night was a test?" "No. Yes. Maybe." Victoria crossed her arms defensively. "I was drunk enough to need help, but sober enough to choose who I called. And I chose you because some part of me trusted you more than anyone else in my life. Which is pathetic, considering I've spent 3 years treating you like a threat." "It's not pathetic. It's honest." Ethan leaned against the counter. "And for what it's worth, I'm glad you called me. Glad I was someone you could trust. Even though it complicated everything. Especially because it complicated everything. Simple isn't always better." Victoria studied him with an intensity that made him shift uncomfortably. "What do you want from me, Ethan? Really?" "I want you to be the leader I know you can be. The one who's brilliant and fair and doesn't let fear make her cruel." He held her gaze. "And I want you to know that you don't have to carry everything alone. That asking for help isn't the same as admitting weakness. That's very noble. But it doesn't answer my question. What question? What do you want from me personally? Because there's something here. She gestured between them. Some connection that formed last night. And we can pretend it's just professional respect or temporary vulnerability, but we both know it's more complicated than that. Ethan's heart kicked against his ribs. They were venturing into dangerous territory, the kind that couldn't be walked back once acknowledged. I don't know, he admitted. I know I care about you. I know seeing you vulnerable last night changed how I see you, but I also know that you're my boss and I'm a single parent who can't afford to lose his job. So what I want doesn't really matter. It matters to me. Why? Victoria moved closer, and Ethan could see the war still raging in her expression. Because in one night, you showed me more genuine kindness than my ex-husband did in 6 years of marriage. Because you finished my presentation without being asked and didn't hold it over my head. Because you let me cry on your couch and didn't make me feel weak for it. She stopped a foot away from him. And because when I woke up this morning and heard you sleeping in the next room, I felt safer than I've felt in years. Which terrifies me. Victoria, I know. I know all the reasons this is a bad idea. The power dynamic, the professional consequences, the fact that we barely know each other outside of work. She laughed shakily. But I also know that I haven't connected with anyone the way I connected with you last night in longer than I can remember, and I don't know what to do with that. Ethan's hands ached to reach for her, to close the distance between them and find out if the connection they'd formed in darkness held up in daylight. But he forced himself to stay still, to think past the attraction to the consequences. If we did this, he said slowly, if we explored whatever this is, we'd have to be smart about it, careful. No one at work could know. HR would have a field day. So we'd be sneaking around like teenagers? That's your solution? I'm saying if this is real, if it's worth exploring, then we need to protect it. And ourselves, which means being strategic. He finally moved closer, close enough to see her pulse jumping in her throat. But before we make any decisions, you need to go home. Sober up completely. Deal with Marcus and the divorce and all the other chaos in your life. And then if you still feel this connection, we can talk about what it means. That's very rational. One of us has to be. Victoria reached up, her fingers grazing his jaw. The touch was feather light, but it sent electricity down his spine. What if I don't want to be rational? What if I'm tired of always making the smart choice? Then you make the impulsive choice and wake up tomorrow with regrets. Ethan caught her hand gently, lowering it. I've been there, Victoria, with Amanda. Following attraction instead of common sense, it doesn't end well. She pulled back, hurt flickering across her face. So I'm just another Amanda? Another mistake waiting to happen? No. You're someone who's in the middle of a divorce and a career crisis and coming off the worst night she's had in recent memory. And I'm someone who's been attracted to the wrong people for the wrong reasons before. He softened his voice. I don't want you to be a mistake, which is why we need to slow down. Victoria wrapped her arms around herself, that vulnerable posture from last night returning. You're right. Of course you're right. I should go home, figure out my life, stop using you as an emotional support system. I didn't say that. You didn't have to. She moved toward the bedroom where her clothes were. Can you call me that car service? Ethan pulled out his phone, arrangements forming even as disappointment settled in his chest. He'd done the right thing, the smart thing. So why did it feel like he'd just made a terrible mistake? 20 minutes later, Victoria emerged in last night's clothes. Oh, the professional armor back in place despite wrinkles in yesterday's makeup. She'd pulled her hair into a neat bun, wiped away the smudged mascara, transformed herself back into the VP who commanded boardrooms. But Ethan could still see traces of the woman who'd cried on his couch, the vulnerability that lurked beneath the polish. Car's here, he said, checking his phone. Thank you for everything. Victoria's voice was formal now, professional distance reestablished. I'll see you Monday morning, 9 a.m., staff meeting. 9 a.m., Ethan confirmed. She moved toward the door, then paused with her hand on the knob. The presentation, your work. I meant what I said about giving you credit. You deserve recognition for it. We can discuss that Monday, too. Right, Monday. Victoria opened the door, then turned back one more time. Ethan, what you said about not carrying everything alone, you should take your own advice. Then she was gone, the door clicking shut behind her with a finality that felt heavier than it should. Ethan stood in his empty apartment, surrounded by evidence of the night before: coffee cups in the sink, blankets on the couch, Lily's volcano on the table. His phone buzzed with a text from Victoria's number. "Thank you for seeing me," he typed back. "Anytime." Then he deleted it and wrote instead, "See you Monday." The weekend stretched ahead of him. Lily's science fair, grocery shopping, laundry, all the mundane tasks of single parenthood. But underneath it all ran a current of unfinished business, of possibilities acknowledged but not pursued, of a connection that refused to be categorized as simply professional or simply personal. Victoria Hale had entered his life at 2 a.m. on a Tuesday night, and Ethan suspected that nothing would ever be quite the same again. He spent Saturday with Lily at the science fair, where her volcano erupted spectacularly, sending red-tinted baking soda foam cascading down its sides to the delight of judges and parents alike. She won third place in her age category, beaming with pride as they hung the ribbon on her bedroom wall. Sunday brought the usual chaos: grocery shopping with the 7-year-old who insisted they needed ingredients for experiments, meal prep for the week, helping Lily with her reading homework. Normal life, the kind Ethan had built carefully over 4 years of single parenting. But his mind kept drifting to Victoria, wondering if she'd made it home safely, if Marcus had been gone when she arrived, if she was second-guessing everything from Friday night, or if she'd already compartmentalized it into the vault where successful executives kept their vulnerabilities. Sunday evening, his phone buzzed. Unknown number, but he answered anyway. "Ethan Cole? Speaking. This is Jennifer Marks from HR at Meridian Financial." Her voice was crisp, professional, with an edge that made Ethan's stomach drop. "I need you to come in tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. before the staff meeting. There's a matter we need to discuss." "What kind of matter?" "I'd prefer to discuss it in person. 8 a.m., HR Conference Room B. Don't be late." The line went dead. Ethan stared at his phone, his mind racing. HR calling on a Sunday night, demanding a meeting before the regular staff call? That wasn't routine check-in, that was trouble. Someone knew. Somehow, someone had found out about Friday night, about Victoria at his apartment, about boundaries crossed and lines blurred. His career was about to implode, and he had less than 12 hours to prepare for the blast. Ethan didn't sleep Sunday night. He lay in bed staring at the ceiling, running through scenarios, each more catastrophic than the last. Someone had seen Victoria leaving his apartment. A neighbor had talked. The car service had records. Marcus had somehow found out and reported it. Every possibility led to the same conclusion. His career at Meridian Financial was over. At 6 a.m., he gave up on sleep entirely. He showered, shaved with extra care, put on his best suit, the charcoal gray one he'd bought for his interview 3 years ago and saved for important client meetings. If he was going down, he'd go down looking professional. Mrs. Chen came over at 7 to watch Lily before school. She took one look at Ethan's face and frowned. "Bad news?" she asked quietly. "Maybe. Probably. I don't know yet." He kissed Lily goodbye, holding her tight for an extra moment. She squirmed in his arms, laughing. "Daddy, you're squishing me." "Sorry, Lily Pad. Have a good day at school, okay? Tell me all about it tonight." "I will. We're learning about fractions." Ethan drove to the Meridian building in downtown Seattle, the familiar glass and steel tower suddenly looking ominous in the early morning light. He'd always loved this building, loved the work he did here, the sense of purpose it gave him. The idea of losing it made his chest tight. He arrived at 7:45 a.m., 15 minutes early. Conference Room B was on the 3rd floor near HR's main offices. Ethan had only been there twice before, once for new hire orientation, once for a benefits review. Nothing good happened in Conference Room B. Jennifer Marks was already there, sitting at the head of the table with a manila folder in front of her. She was in her mid-50s with steel gray hair cut in a severe bob, and the kind of neutral expression that revealed nothing. "Mr. Cole, thank you for being punctual." She gestured to a chair. "Please, sit." Ethan sat, his hands folded carefully in his lap to hide their trembling. "Ms. Marks, can I ask what this is about?" "In a moment. We're waiting for one more person." The door opened behind him. Ethan turned, expecting legal counsel or maybe his direct supervisor, someone to witness whatever disciplinary action was about to unfold. Instead, Victoria Hale walked in. She looked flawless. Navy suit perfectly tailored, hair in its signature bob, makeup subtle and professional. But Ethan caught the tension in her shoulders, the way her knuckles were white where she gripped her briefcase. Their eyes met for a fraction of a second. Her expression was carefully neutral, giving nothing away. "Ms. Hale," Jennifer said, "please, join us." Victoria sat across from Ethan, setting her briefcase down with deliberate care. She didn't look at him again. Jennifer opened the manila folder. "I've called you both here to discuss a sensitive matter that's come to my attention. Specifically, concerns about professional conduct and potential violations of company policy regarding relationships between supervisors and subordinates." Ethan's stomach dropped through the floor. "Before we go further," Jennifer continued, "I want to be clear that this is a preliminary inquiry, not a formal investigation. You're both here voluntarily, and anything discussed remains confidential. Do you understand?" "Yes," Victoria said, her voice steady. "Yes," Ethan managed. Jennifer looked at Victoria. "Ms. Hale, can you tell me about your relationship with Mr. Cole?" Victoria's face remained impassive. "Mr. Cole is a junior analyst on my team. He's been with Meridian for 3 years and consistently delivers high-quality work. Our relationship is strictly professional. No social interactions outside of work. We've attended company functions together as part of the team. Nothing beyond that." Jennifer made a note. "And you, Mr. Cole? How would you characterize your relationship with Miss Hale?" Ethan's mind raced. If he lied and they had evidence, he'd be fired for dishonesty. If he told the truth, they'd both be fired for inappropriate conduct. He chose his words carefully. "Ms. Hale is my supervisor. We have a professional working relationship. She's demanding but fair, and I respect her leadership. Have you ever been alone with Ms. Hale outside of work?" The question hung in the air like a grenade with the pin pulled. Ethan glanced at Victoria. Her expression hadn't changed, but he saw her jaw tighten almost imperceptibly. She was leaving this to him. Whatever he said next would determine both their fates. "Yes," he said finally. "Once. This past Friday night." Jennifer's pen stopped moving. "Can you elaborate?" "Both. Hale called me around midnight. She'd been out with friends and needed assistance getting home safely. I helped her, made sure she was all right, and then I left. The lie was close enough to the truth that it didn't feel like a complete betrayal. It was a brief interaction, maybe 30 minutes total." "I see." Jennifer turned to Victoria. "Ms. Hale, does Mr. Cole's account match your recollection?" Victoria's eyes finally met Ethan's again. He saw the decision forming, saw her weighing options and calculating consequences with the same precision she brought to financial models. "No," she said quietly. Ethan's heart stopped. "Mr. Cole is being generous with the timeline and the circumstances," Victoria continued. "The truth is I called him because I was intoxicated and in a situation I couldn't handle alone. He came to help me, drove me to his apartment because I couldn't go home, and let me sleep on his couch. He acted with complete professionalism throughout. The fault here is entirely mine." Jennifer's expression sharpened. "You spent the night at Mr. Cole's residence?" "On his couch. He slept in his bedroom. Nothing inappropriate happened." Victoria's voice was steady, but Ethan could hear the undercurrent of fear. "I put Mr. Cole in an impossible position by calling him. He responded with kindness and professionalism. If there's any policy violation here, it's mine, not his. Ms. Hale, you understand how this looks? A senior executive spending the night at a subordinate's home?" "I understand completely, which is why I'm prepared to submit my resignation, effective immediately, if that's what's required." Victoria's hands were folded on the table, perfectly composed. "But I won't allow Mr. Cole to be punished for my poor judgment. He did nothing wrong." "Victoria," Ethan started, but Jennifer held up a hand. "Mr. Cole, please, let Miss Hale finish," Victoria continued as if Ethan hadn't spoken. "I've been under significant stress due to my divorce. I made the mistake of drinking too much and calling an employee when I should have called a friend or a car service. Mr. Cole helped me out of kindness. Nothing more. If Meridian chooses to terminate me for that lapse in judgment, I accept those consequences. but penalizing Mr. Cole would be unjust. The room fell silent. Jennifer made more notes, her expression unreadable. Finally, she looked up. I appreciate your candor, both of you. However, this situation is more complicated than a simple question of appropriate conduct. She pulled a document from the folder. I received an anonymous email Saturday morning claiming that Ms. Hale and Mr. Cole are engaged in an inappropriate romantic relationship. The email included details about Friday night, the bar, the car ride, Ms. Hale entering Mr. Cole's apartment and not leaving until Saturday morning. Ethan felt cold. Someone had been watching. Someone had documented everything. The email, Jennifer continued, came from an external address, but the level of detail suggests someone with inside knowledge. Possibly someone from this office who saw something or heard something. She looked between them. So I need to ask you both, directly and clearly, is there a romantic or sexual relationship between you? No, Victoria said immediately. No, Ethan echoed. Has there ever been? No. No. Jennifer studied them for a long moment. Are you attracted to each other? The question was so direct, so unexpected, that Ethan froze. Beside him, Victoria's composure finally cracked, just slightly. Ms. Marks, Victoria said carefully, I'm not sure that's relevant to... It's absolutely relevant, because if there's mutual attraction here, even if unacted upon, it creates a conflict of interest. It affects performance reviews, assignments, promotions. Everything becomes suspect. Jennifer leaned forward. So I'll ask again. Are you attracted to each other? Ethan looked at Victoria. She looked back. In that moment, he saw everything they'd shared Friday night reflected in her eyes. The vulnerability, the connection, the dangerous pull towards something neither of them fully understood. Yes, Ethan said quietly. I'm attracted to her, but I've never acted on it, never would act on it, given our professional relationship. Victoria's breath caught audibly. For a moment, Ethan thought she might deny it, might protect herself by throwing him under the bus. Instead, she said, I'm attracted to him too, but as Mr. Cole said, we've never acted on it. Friday night was an emergency situation, nothing more. Jennifer sat back, her expression softening slightly. Thank you for your honesty. That couldn't have been easy to admit. She closed the folder. Here's my assessment of the situation. Did you both exercise poor judgment on Friday? Yes. Should Ms. Hale have called a subordinate for help in a personal crisis? No. Should Mr. Cole have taken his supervisor home instead of to a hotel? Probably not. But do I believe something inappropriate happened? Actually, no. I don't. Ethan's chest loosened slightly. You don't? I've been doing this job for 20 years, Mr. Cole. I can tell when people are lying to me. You're both clearly attracted to each other, and you're both clearly terrified of acting on it. That level of restraint doesn't suggest an affair. She pulled out another document. However, the mere appearance of impropriety is a problem. So here's what's going to happen. She slid the document across to Victoria. Ms. Hale, you're being reassigned. Effective immediately, you'll be moving to a different division. The Global Markets team. Same level, same pay, but no supervisory relationship with Mr. Cole. Victoria's eyes widened. Global Markets? That's David Chen's division. I've already spoken with him. He's thrilled to have someone with your expertise. Jennifer's tone brooked no argument. This way, you and Mr. Cole won't be in the same reporting chain. The conflict of interest disappears. And if I refuse the reassignment? Then we move to a formal investigation, and I can't guarantee the outcome will be as favorable. Jennifer turned to Ethan. Mr. Cole, you'll remain on your current team. Michael Torres will take over as interim supervisor until we find a permanent replacement for Miss Hale. You'll have no contact with Ms. Hale except in official cross-divisional meetings, and those will always include other staff members. Clear? Clear, Ethan said, his mind reeling. As for the anonymous email, I'm treating it as malicious gossip unless further evidence emerges. But you should both be aware that you're being watched. Someone in this office has it out for one or both of you. So I strongly suggest you maintain absolute professionalism going forward. Jennifer stood. Any questions? Who sent the email? Victoria asked. I don't know. The account was created Friday night and hasn't been used since. Whoever it was knew just enough to be dangerous, but Not enough to prove anything concrete. She gathered her papers. My advice? Figure out who might have a grudge against you and watch your backs. This isn't over. They were dismissed with a warning to keep the meeting confidential. Ethan walked out of conference room B feeling like he'd survived a car crash, shaky, disoriented, grateful to be alive but acutely aware of how close he'd come to disaster. Victoria caught up with him in the hallway, grabbing his elbow and pulling him into an empty office. You told her, Victoria said, her voice shaking. You told her you were attracted to me. You told her the same thing. Because you went first. Because you... She pressed her hands to her face. Do you know what you just did? You put a target on both our backs. I told the truth, which is apparently what saved us. Ethan kept his voice low, aware of the open office around them. Jennifer was going to dig until she found something. At least this way we controlled the narrative. We controlled nothing. We're being separated. I'm losing my team, and someone out there is watching us, documenting our every move. Victoria's composure was fracturing. This is a disaster. It's a complication. There's a difference. How can you be so calm about this? Because I've been terrified since yesterday, Ethan admitted. I thought I was getting fired this morning. Thought you were getting fired. Instead, we got reassigned. That's not ideal, but it's survivable. Victoria leaned against the desk, her carefully constructed professional mask slipping. I don't want global markets. I built my team. I know their strengths and weaknesses. I know how to manage them. And you'll build something just as good with Chen's team. You're brilliant, Victoria. One reassignment isn't going to change that. Everything's changing. Her voice was barely a whisper. My marriage ended. My career is being rearranged. And I have feelings for someone I shouldn't have feelings for. And now everyone knows it. Ethan glanced at the hallway, making sure they were still alone. Not everyone, just Jennifer. And she's on our side. For now. Until whoever sent that email digs up something else. Until someone gets a photo or a recording or any shred of actual evidence. Victoria's eyes met his, and the fear in them was raw. We can't do this, Ethan. Whatever this is between us, we can't pursue it. The stakes are too high. I know. Do you? Because you just confessed your attraction to HR. That's not the behavior of someone who's trying to maintain distance. I confessed because lying would have been worse. Jennifer would have seen through it, and then we really would have been screwed. He moved closer, close enough to see the pulse jumping in her throat. But you're right. We can't do this. Can't explore whatever connection we felt Friday night. It's too dangerous. So that's it? We just go back to being strangers? We were never strangers, and now we're colleagues in different divisions who maintain professional boundaries. Ethan forced himself to step back. It's what it has to be. Victoria's laugh was hollow. I hate this. I hate that I finally meet someone who sees me as more than just a title. And I can't do anything about it because of professional hierarchies and anonymous emails and office politics. Welcome to my life for the past 3 years, Ethan said softly. Wanting something I couldn't have. Her eyes widened. You felt this for 3 years? Not this specifically, but I've been aware of you, of the person underneath the VP mask. I saw glimpses of it in meetings, in the way you defended your team to the executives, in how you'd stay late to help junior analysts with complex models, even though you were exhausted. He smiled sadly. Friday night didn't create my attraction to you. It just gave it permission to exist. Victoria crossed her arms, a defensive posture that couldn't quite hide her vulnerability. So what do we do now? We follow Jennifer's rules. You move to global markets. I stay with my team. We maintain absolute professionalism. And we see if whatever this is survives the distance. And if it doesn't, then it was never meant to be more than one night of honest conversation. Ethan moved toward the door, then paused. But if it does survive, if 6 months from now we still feel this pull, then maybe we explore it carefully. When you're not my supervisor, and I'm not your subordinate, and the power dynamic is actually equal. 6 months is a long time. So is a career. I'm willing to wait if you are. Victoria studied him for a long moment. You're really willing to do that? Wait 6 months on the possibility that this might be something real? I've waited 3 years already. What's 6 more months? The intercom crackled. Ms. Hale, Mr. Chen is here for your transition meeting. Victoria straightened, the VP mask sliding back into place with practiced ease. I have to go. New team to meet. New role to figure out. You'll be great at it. Will I? She moved past him toward the door. I'm not sure I know how to be great at anything anymore. Yes, you do. You just forgot for a while. Ethan held her gaze. Friday night wasn't just you falling apart. It was you remembering how to be human. Don't lose that again. Victoria's hand lingered on the doorknob. The presentation, your Westfield analysis, I'm still using it, but I won't be the one presenting anymore. That should be you. I don't want to. It's your work, your brilliance. You deserve the recognition. Her smile was genuine but sad. Consider it my final act as your supervisor. Launching your career properly instead of sabotaging it. Then she was gone, heels clicking down the hallway toward her new future. Ethan stood in the empty office, surrounded by other people's family photos and motivational posters, and felt the full weight of what had just happened. He'd survived an HR inquiry, kept his job, but he'd also lost something precious, the possibility of exploring whatever Victoria might have been to him. 6 months. He'd wait 6 months. The question was whether she would too. The rest of Monday passed in a blur of speculation and sideways glances. Word spread quickly that Victoria had been reassigned, though the official story was that it was a strategic move to leverage her expertise in global markets. No one mentioned Ethan. No one connected the dots publicly, but the whispers started anyway. Did you hear Victoria got moved? I heard it was because of some HR issue. Michael Torres is taking over the team. He's way less intense. Ethan kept his head down, focused on his work, and tried to ignore the curious looks from colleagues who wondered what role, if any, he'd played in their VP's sudden departure. At 3 p.m., Michael Torres called a team meeting. He was in his late 40s, with a reputation for being competent but uninspiring, the kind of manager who maintained the status quo without pushing for excellence. I know this transition is sudden, Michael said, standing at the front of the conference room. Victoria Hale has been reassigned to global markets, and I'll be stepping in as your supervisor. I want you all to know that I value consistency. We'll maintain current processes and workflows. No dramatic changes. Translation: no more pushing for innovation. No more demands for excellence. Just comfortable mediocrity. Ethan felt something twist in his chest. Victoria's team, his team, had been built on the principle that good wasn't enough, that they could be better, sharper, more innovative than any other division. Under Michael, that edge would dull. After the meeting, Ethan returned to his desk to find an email waiting from Victoria, sent to the entire team. To my former team, it's been my privilege to work with each of you. You've challenged me, supported me, and consistently delivered excellence. I'm moving to global markets effective immediately, but I want you to know that you're the best team I've ever had the honor of leading. Continue to be brilliant. Victoria Hale. Short, professional, giving nothing away. But Ethan read between the lines, saw the goodbyes she couldn't say openly, the acknowledgement of what they'd built together and what was being lost. He typed a response 3 times and deleted it 3 times. Finally settled on, "Thank you for everything you taught me. Wishing you success in your new role. Ethan Cole." Safe, professional, meaningless. His phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number. "Watched you go into that office with her this morning. Whatever you think happened in HR, you're not safe. Neither is she. This isn't over." Ethan stared at the message, ice forming in his veins. Someone was watching. Someone knew details they shouldn't know. He forwarded the text to Jennifer Marks with a simple note. "Received this 5 minutes ago." Her response came within seconds. "Do not engage. Screenshot and save everything. I'm escalating to security." The rest of the afternoon crawled by. Ethan couldn't focus, couldn't stop checking his phone for more threatening messages, couldn't shake the feeling of being observed. At 5:30 p.m., he packed his things and headed for the parking garage. His hands were shaking as he unlocked his car. "Ethan." He spun around. Victoria stood 3 cars away, her briefcase in hand, looking as exhausted as he felt. "We shouldn't be seen together," he said automatically. "I know, but I got one too, a text, from someone who knows things they shouldn't know." She moved closer, lowering her voice. "They mentioned your daughter by name, Ethan. They said they knew where she went to school." Every protective instinct Ethan possessed roared to life. They threatened Lily? Not directly, but the implication was clear that they could get to her if they wanted to. Victoria's face was pale. We need to go to the police. This has moved beyond office politics. Jennifer said she was escalating to security. Corporate security isn't equipped for this. We need real help. Victoria glanced around the garage. I'm scared. I haven't been this scared since when? Since Marcus got violent during one of our fights last year. When I realized I wasn't safe in my own home. Her voice was barely above a whisper. I know that feeling, and I'm feeling it again now. Ethan made a decision. Come to my apartment. We'll call the police from there. Together. Safety in numbers. That's exactly what whoever's watching us wants. To catch us together again. I don't care anymore. Well, Ethan was surprised by the vehemence in his own voice. They threatened my daughter. Professional boundaries just became secondary to keeping Lily safe. And you safe. So you're coming with me. We're filing a police report, and we're figuring out who the hell is doing this. Victoria looked like she might argue. Then her phone buzzed. She checked it, and all color drained from her face. What? Ethan demanded. She turned the screen toward him. Another message. Cute kid? Would be a shame if something happened to her at Roosevelt Elementary. Lily's school. They knew Lily's school. My car, Ethan said, his voice deadly calm. Now. They drove in tense silence, Ethan breaking every speed limit between downtown and Fremont. He called Mrs. Chen on the way. Is Lily with you? Yes, we're making cookies. Why? What's wrong? Keep her inside, lock the doors. Don't let anyone in except me. I'm on my way. Ethan, you're scaring me. I'm scared too. Just please, keep her safe. He made it home in record time. Mrs. Chen met him at the door, Lily peeking around her legs with chocolate on her face. Daddy, you're home early. Ethan scooped her up, holding her so tight she squeaked. Hey, Lily Pad, how are the cookies? Good. Mrs. Chen let me use the mixer and everything. That's great, sweetheart. He set her down, turning to Mrs. Chen. Thank you for watching her. I need you to keep doing me favors, I know. But can you stay a little longer? There's something I need to handle. Mrs. Chen looked past him to where Victoria stood uncertainly in the doorway. Recognition flickered across her face. The same woman from Saturday morning. More work emergencies? She asked knowingly. Something like that. I'll stay as long as you need. You take care of your business. She shooed Lily back toward the kitchen. Come on, little one. Let's decorate those cookies while they're still warm. Ethan waited until they were out of earshot before turning to Victoria. I'm calling the police. We need this documented. Whoever's doing this is escalating, and I won't risk Lily's safety. Victoria nodded, pulling out her phone. I'll call too. Give my statement. Maybe between the two of us, they'll take it seriously. 2 hours later, they'd given statements to a Seattle PD detective who looked simultaneously concerned and skeptical. Cyberstalking, anonymous threats, workplace harassment. It all went into a report that might or might not lead anywhere. We'll investigate, Detective Morrison said, packing up his notes. But without more concrete evidence of who's sending these messages, our hands are tied. Best advice? Document everything. Don't engage with the sender. Consider getting restraining orders if we can identify the person. After he left, Ethan and Victoria sat at his kitchen table with cold coffee and mounting dread. This is my fault, Victoria said. I called you Friday night and started all of this. You called me for help. That's not a crime. It set off a chain reaction we can't control. She pushed her coffee away untouched. Maybe I should resign. Leave Meridian entirely. If I'm gone, whoever this is will have no reason to keep targeting you. That's letting them win. I don't care about winning anymore. I care about keeping you and Lily safe. Victoria stood, pacing his small kitchen. This person knows where your daughter goes to school, Ethan. Ethan. They're willing to threaten a 7-year-old to get to us. That's beyond office politics. That's dangerous. Which is why running won't help. They've already invested this much energy into hurting us. They're not going to stop just because you leave. Ethan caught her hand as she paced past. We face this together. We figure out who it is, and we stop them. Victoria looked down at their joined hands. We can't even be in the same room without risking our careers. How are we supposed to investigate this together? Carefully, smartly. He squeezed her hand once, then let go. And maybe we stop worrying so much about what people think and start worrying about what's actually right. What's right is protecting your daughter. What's right is not letting someone terrorize us into hiding. Ethan stood, moving to face her. You said Friday night that you were tired of making the smart choice, of always being rational. Maybe it's time to be brave instead. Brave how? We find out who sent that anonymous email to HR. We trace the texts. We figure out who has access to information about both our lives and who has a motive to destroy us. He held her gaze. And we stop pretending we don't care about each other. Because that's what they want, for us to be isolated and afraid and alone. Victoria's breath caught. You're talking about fighting back. I'm talking about refusing to be victims. Ethan moved closer. 6 months. I said we'd wait. But I'm not waiting 6 months to figure out who's threatening my daughter. Are you with me? For a long moment, Victoria stood frozen, war clearly raging behind her eyes. Professional caution versus personal conviction. Safety versus courage. Everything she'd built versus something that might be worth building. Finally, she nodded. I'm with you. Whatever it takes to stop this. Then we start tomorrow. We make a list of everyone who might have a grudge against either of us. We go through our emails, our calendars, look for patterns. Ethan's mind was already racing ahead, strategizing. And we do it carefully. No more mistakes. No more giving them ammunition. Partners? Victoria asked, a ghost of a smile on her lips. Partners? Ethan confirmed. From the kitchen, Lily's voice rang out. Daddy, come see! I decorated a cookie that looks like a volcano. Victoria and Ethan locked eyes, and something unspoken passed between them. An acknowledgement of the battle ahead. A recognition of what they stood to lose and what they might gain. Go, Victoria said softly. Be with your daughter. I'll see myself out. Victoria, I'll be fine. I'll be careful. And I'll start going through my contacts tonight. We'll compare notes tomorrow. She moved toward the door, then paused. Thank you for not running, for choosing to fight. Thank you for fighting with me. After she left, Ethan joined Lily in the kitchen and admired her volcano cookie with appropriate enthusiasm. Mrs. Chen watched him with knowing eyes but asked no questions. That night, after Lily was asleep and Mrs. Chen had gone home, Ethan sat at his computer and started building a list. Everyone he'd worked with at Meridian, every colleague who might have seen Victoria at his apartment, every person who'd benefit from their downfall. The list grew longer than he'd expected, and somewhere on it, hidden among familiar names and friendly faces, was someone who wanted to destroy them. Ethan was going to find out who, and he was going to stop them, whatever it took. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Tuesday morning, Ethan arrived at the office to find a plain manila envelope on his desk. No name, no return address, just his employee number written in block letters across the front. He stared at it for a long moment before carefully opening it with a letter opener, conscious of potential fingerprints. Inside was a single printed page. Security camera footage, timestamps from the parking garage, Friday night and Saturday morning. Someone had been in the garage. Someone had been watching. And they documented Victoria's arrival and departure with photographic precision. But that wasn't what made Ethan's blood run cold. At the bottom of the page, handwritten in the same block letters, check Torres's calendar, November 15th, conference room D. You weren't the only one, she called. Michael Torres, the interim supervisor who'd taken over Victoria's team, the man who'd been so quick to emphasize consistency and status quo. Ethan's mind raced back through recent interactions. Torres had seemed almost pleased about Victoria's reassignment, had made comments about finally getting a chance to show what proper management looked like, had been vocal, now that Ethan thought about it, about Victoria's aggressive management style and unrealistic expectations. He pulled up his computer, logging into the shared calendar system. November 15th was 3 weeks ago, 2 weeks before Victoria's divorce was finalized. He searched for conference room D bookings. There, 7 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. Reserved by Michael Torres. Meeting attendee, Victoria Hale. Ethan sat back, pieces clicking into place. A late meeting between Torres and Victoria right around the time her marriage was imploding. What had happened in that meeting? What had Torres wanted? His phone buzzed. Text from Victoria. Can you meet? Coffee shop on 5th. 30 minutes. I found something. Ethan glanced around the office. People were starting to arrive, settling into their cubicles with coffee and morning routines. He needed to be careful, needed to maintain the appearance of professionalism even while investigating who was trying to destroy them. He typed back, I'll be there. The coffee shop was deliberately neutral territory, far enough from Meridian to avoid colleagues, but public enough to maintain propriety. Victoria was already there when he arrived, tucked into a corner booth with her laptop open and 2 cups of coffee waiting. I ordered you a latte, she said without preamble. We need to talk. Ethan slid into the booth, setting the manila envelope between them. You first or me first? You brought evidence. That wins. Victoria's eyes sharpened as she examined the envelope. Where did you get this? Someone left it on my desk this morning. Anonymous. But they're pointing me toward Torres. Victoria's expression shifted from curiosity to something darker. That makes sense. I found something too. She turned her laptop around, showing him an email chain from 3 weeks ago. Torres requested a meeting with me, said he wanted to discuss team restructuring. When I got there, he had a completely different agenda. Which was? He propositioned me. Victoria's voice was flat, emotionless. Said my divorce meant I'd be lonely, that we could provide mutual comfort, that no one would need to know. Ethan felt rage crystallize in his chest. He did what? I shut him down immediately. Told him if he ever suggested anything like that again, I'd report him to HR. Victoria's jaw tightened. He laughed, said I should be grateful for the attention, that women my age didn't get many offers. Please tell me you reported him. I didn't. I should have, but I didn't. Victoria closed her laptop with controlled force. I was in the middle of a divorce. Marcus was already spreading rumors that I was sleeping my way to the top. I thought if I reported Torres, it would just feed into that narrative. So I warned him to back off and hoped that would be the end of it. But it wasn't. Clearly not. He reassigned himself to my team the week after, started making comments in meetings about my management style being too aggressive, about how the team needed a softer touch. Victoria's hands curled into fists. I thought he was just being petty. I didn't realize he was laying groundwork. Ethan pulled out his phone, showing her the security footage timestamps. He was in the parking garage Friday night, watching, documenting, building his case against you. Against us, Victoria corrected. He saw you help me, saw me stay at your apartment, and instead of just reporting it to HR like a normal human being, he's been terrorizing us with anonymous threats. But why? If you wanted to destroy your career, he already had ammunition. Why drag it out with threatening texts? Victoria was quiet for a moment, her analytical mind working through the problem. Because he doesn't just want me gone. He wants me destroyed, humiliated. He wants everyone to know that the youngest VP in company history fell from grace because she couldn't keep her personal and professional lives separate. That's vindictive even for office politics. You don't know Torres like I do. He's been at Meridian for 15 years, passed over for VP twice. Both times, younger people got the position instead of him. He's bitter, resentful, and now he finally has a chance to take down someone who represents everything he hates about the modern corporate world. Ethan thought about the threatening text mentioning Lily's school, about the escalation from anonymous emails to direct intimidation. He threatened my daughter, Victoria. That goes beyond wanting revenge on you. Unless he sees you as part of the problem. The junior analyst who did work above his pay grade, who caught the VP's attention, who represents the same kind of merit-based advancement that Torres can't compete with. Victoria met his eyes. He's not just coming after me. He's coming after the idea that competence matters more than seniority. So what do? We can't prove he's behind the text. The emails were sent from anonymous accounts. The security footage just shows he was in the garage, not that he did anything wrong. Victoria drummed her fingers on the table, a nervous habit Ethan had noticed she only displayed when she was strategizing. We need him to reveal himself, make a mistake, get overconfident. How? We give him what he wants, or rather, we make him think he's getting what he wants. Victoria leaned forward, her voice dropping. We act like we're having an affair, make it obvious, let him document it, and when he takes the evidence to HR, we spring the trap. Ethan stared at her. You want us to fake a relationship? I want us to bait him into revealing his hand. Right now, all he has are suggestions and implications. But if he thinks he's got concrete proof, he'll move quickly. And when he does, we'll be ready with evidence that he's been stalking us, harassing us, threatening a child. That's risky. If it backfires, we both lose our jobs. We're already at risk of losing our jobs. At least this way we control the narrative. Victoria's eyes were bright with the same intensity she brought to impossible financial models. Jennifer Marks said someone was watching us, that we should be careful. But what if we stop being careful? What if we make Torres so confident in his case that he rushes to judgment? Ethan considered the plan from every angle. It was dangerous, potentially career-ending. But it was also proactive instead of reactive, which appealed to every instinct that had kept him and Lily afloat for 4 years. What exactly would we have to do? He asked. Meet publicly. Have coffee dates. Lunch meetings that look personal instead of professional. Maybe I come to one of Lily's soccer games. We make it look like we're not even trying to hide anymore. Victoria held his gaze. But we'd need to be smart about it. Document everything. Make sure we're never actually alone in compromising situations. Create the appearance without the substance. And when Torres takes the bait, we go to Jennifer with everything. The texts, the threats, the timeline of his harassment. We show that he's been stalking us, that his claims are based on manufactured evidence, and that he's weaponizing HR policies for personal vendettas. It was bold, possibly brilliant, definitely insane. There's one problem, Ethan said. If we're faking a relationship, we'd need to be convincing. And given that we're actually attracted to each other, that line between performance and reality might get blurry. Victoria's expression softened. I know, that's the risk. But I trust you to maintain boundaries, and I promise I'll do the same. You're asking me to pretend to date my former supervisor while actually investigating her current replacement for stalking and harassment. Do you hear how ridiculous that sounds? I hear how it sounds. I also know it might be our only shot at ending this before someone gets hurt. Victoria reached across the table, her hand stopping just short of touching his. I wouldn't ask if I thought there was another way. But Torres is escalating. The texts are getting more specific, more threatening. How long before he moves from words to action? Ethan thought about Lily at Roosevelt Elementary, about the sick feeling he got every time he dropped her off now, wondering if someone was watching, about the way she'd asked him last night why he seemed so worried all the time. Okay, he said finally, we do it your way, but we need rules, clear boundaries about what's performance and what's real. Agreed. So what are the rules? Ethan pulled out his phone, opening a new note. Rule 1. We're never alone in private spaces. All our staged interactions happen in public or in professional settings with other people present. Rule 2, Victoria added. We document everything, every meeting, every text, every interaction. Create a timeline that proves our relationship is strategic, not romantic. Rule 3. We tell Jennifer Marks what we're doing. Get her blessing and her support before we commit. Victoria hesitated. She might shut us down. Tell us to let corporate security handle it. Then we know the plan won't work and we find another way. But I'm not doing this without HR knowing. That's non-negotiable. Fair enough. Rule 4. If either of us feels the line between fake and real is getting too blurred, we stop immediately. No questions asked. Ethan met her eyes. Can you do that? Stop if it starts feeling too real. Can you? They looked at each other across the coffee shop table, both knowing the answer was probably no, but both too invested in stopping Torres to back down now. We'll figure it out, Ethan said, which wasn't an answer, but was all he had. They spent the next hour building a detailed plan, where they'd be seen together, what conversations they'd have in public, how they'd gradually escalate the appearance of intimacy while maintaining actual professionalism. It felt like planning a military operation, complete with contingencies and exit strategies. We should start today, Victoria said. Have lunch together in the Meridian cafeteria. Make it obvious we're choosing to sit together despite the reassignment. Won't that seem sudden? Yesterday we were being separated, today we're having lunch together? That's the point. It looks like we can't stay away from each other. Like the HR intervention just made us more desperate. Victoria's smile was sharp. Torres is waiting for us to make a mistake. Let's give him one. They parted ways with a plan and a shared sense of stepping off a cliff without knowing if there was a net below. Ethan went back to the office, hyper-aware of Torres's presence 3 cubicles over. The interim supervisor was on a phone call, his voice carrying across the floor. "No, I understand the urgency. I'll have the report by end of day." A pause. "Right. The Westfield presentation is being finalized. Cole did most of the analysis, but I'm overseeing the final touches." Ethan bristled at the casual appropriation of credit. His work was being presented as Torres's oversight. Another small theft, another erosion of recognition. At noon, Ethan headed to the cafeteria. Victoria was already there, sitting at a table by the windows with a salad and her laptop. She looked up as he approached, her expression carefully neutral. "Mind if I join you?" Ethan asked, loudly enough for nearby tables to hear. "Actually, I was hoping you would. I wanted to ask about the Westfield analysis." Victoria gestured to the empty seat across from her. "You did brilliant work. I'd love to understand your methodology." They talked about work, but their body language told a different story. Victoria leaned in when Ethan spoke. Ethan laughed at her observations with genuine warmth. To anyone watching, it looked like 2 people who were intensely aware of each other, trying and failing to maintain professional distance. Across the cafeteria, Ethan spotted Torres watching them. The interim supervisor's expression was calculating, predatory. Ethan met his gaze for a moment, then deliberately turned his attention back to Victoria, smiling at something she'd said. The message was clear. We're not hiding anymore. After lunch, Ethan returned to his desk to find another anonymous text. "Saw you 2 at lunch. Very cozy. Does HR know you're already breaking their rules?" He screenshot the message and forwarded it to Victoria with a note. "He's watching. Plan is working." Her response? "Good. Let him watch." The rest of the week followed the same pattern. Ethan and Victoria had coffee together Tuesday afternoon at a shop across from Meridian's building. Wednesday, Victoria stopped by Ethan's desk to discuss a cross-divisional project, staying longer than necessary and laughing too loudly at his jokes. Thursday, they were seen leaving the building together, walking toward the parking garage in conversation that looked intimate even from a distance. With each interaction, the anonymous text escalated. "You're playing with fire. HR will destroy you both. Think about your daughter. What happens to her when you lose your job?" Each message was screenshot, documented, added to the growing file of evidence. Jennifer Marks had been skeptical when they'd explained their plan, but had agreed to let them proceed with strict oversight. Corporate security was monitoring the anonymous email accounts and text sources, building a technical trail back to whoever was sending them. By Friday, Torres was visibly agitated. He'd scheduled a meeting with Jennifer Marks for Monday morning. The trap was set. Friday evening, Ethan picked up Lily from school and drove to Roosevelt Elementary's soccer field for her weekly game. He was setting up his folding chair on the sidelines when he heard a familiar voice. "Is this seat taken?" Victoria stood next to him, dressed in jeans and a simple sweater, looking nothing like the polished executive from work. She held a thermos of what smelled like hot chocolate. Ethan's heart did something complicated in his chest. "You came. You mentioned she had a game. I thought, well, if we're supposed to be creating appearances, a public event like this sends the right message." Victoria sat down, then leaned closer. "Also, I genuinely wanted to watch Lily play. She talked about soccer for 15 minutes on Saturday morning. I was curious." On the field, Lily spotted them and waved frantically. Her entire face lit up when she saw Victoria, and she ran over during warm-ups. "Miss Victoria, you came to my game." "I did. Your dad said you're the best midfielder on the team. Daddy always says that. But today, I'm going to score a goal and prove it's true." Lily beamed at both of them. "Are you guys friends now? Because Daddy seems happier when you're around." Ethan felt his face heat. "Lily, get back to your warm-ups. But I want to know, Lily." He used his dad voice, the one that meant no arguments. She pouted but ran back to her team, looking over her shoulder at them with obvious speculation. "She's perceptive," Victoria observed. "Too perceptive. She's been asking questions all week about why I'm checking my phone so much and why I seem nervous. Ethan watched his daughter practice dribbling drills. I hate that this is affecting her, that she can sense something's wrong. We're going to fix it. Monday, when Torres makes his move, we'll have everything ready. The game started, and Ethan lost himself in the familiar rhythm of cheering Lily on. She played with fierce determination, chasing the ball up and down the field with an intensity that reminded him of himself at that age. Victoria watched with genuine interest, asking questions about positions and rules, learning the game in real time. In the second half, Lily broke away from a defender, dribbled toward the goal, and took a shot that sailed past the goalkeeper into the net. The small crowd of parents erupted in cheers. Lily turned toward the sidelines, finding Ethan and Victoria, her smile so bright it hurt to look at. "She did it," Victoria said softly. "She actually did it. She always does. When Lily sets her mind to something, she doesn't quit." Ethan felt pride swell in his chest, the uncomplicated joy of watching his daughter succeed. After the game, Lily ran over, sweaty and triumphant. "Did you see? Did you see my goal?" "We saw." Ethan scooped her up, despite her protest that she was too old for that. "You were amazing, Lily Pad." "Miss Victoria, did you see it?" "I saw every second. That was incredible." Victoria's smile was genuine, unguarded. "You're exactly as good as your dad said you were. Can Miss Victoria come to dinner with us? Please, we always get pizza after games and she should come too." Ethan and Victoria exchanged looks. This was crossing into dangerous territory. Dinner together with Lily present felt less like staging appearances and more like actual dating. "I don't want to intrude on your tradition," Victoria said carefully. "You wouldn't be intruding, right, Daddy? We always get extra pizza anyway." Ethan thought about rules and boundaries and the careful line between performance and reality they were supposed to maintain. Then he thought about Lily's hopeful face and Victoria's obvious desire to say yes despite her hesitation. "Pizza sounds great," he said. "If you're free." "I'm free." They ended up at a family-style Italian restaurant near Ethan's apartment, the kind of place with red and white checkered tablecloths and crayons for kids to draw on the paper covering the tables. Lily monopolized Victoria's attention, telling her about school and friends and the book she was reading about a girl who discovered she could talk to animals. And then she finds out her mom could do it too, but she kept it secret her whole life. Can you imagine keeping a secret like that from your own kid? Lily looked between them. "I don't think parents should keep secrets from kids. Do you?" "Depends on the secret," Ethan said diplomatically. "Sometimes parents keep things quiet to protect their children. But if you love someone, you should tell them the truth. That's what Mrs. Patterson says." Lily returned her attention to her coloring, completely missing the way her simple statement landed between the adults. Victoria caught Ethan's eye across the table. In that look, he saw acknowledgement of all the truths they were dancing around. The attraction they'd admitted to HR but couldn't act on. The fake relationship they were building that felt increasingly real. The danger they were courting that Lily knew nothing about. "Your daughter is very wise," Victoria said quietly. "She gets it from her mother," Ethan replied, then corrected himself. "Got it, past tense. Amanda's been gone so long sometimes I forget." "Do you miss her?" "I miss the idea of what our family could have been. The reality? No. Amanda leaving was the best thing that could have happened to Lily and me. Gave us room to become who we actually are instead of trying to fit into who she wanted us to be." Lily looked up from her drawing. "I'm drawing a picture of today. See? That's me scoring the goal, and that's you and Miss Victoria watching." She'd drawn 3 stick figures, one small one in the middle of a soccer field, and 2 larger ones sitting close together on the sidelines. The 2 larger figures were holding hands. Ethan's breath caught. "Lily, we weren't holding hands. But you looked like you wanted to." She returned to her crayons with perfect 7-year-old logic. "So I drew what it looked like in my brain." Victoria studied the drawing with an unreadable expression. "Can I keep this? When you're done?" "Really? You want my drawing?" "I do. I think it's beautiful." Lily beamed and applied herself to adding more details with renewed enthusiasm. Ethan and Victoria sat in the warm glow of the restaurant, surrounded by other families, and for a moment it was easy to pretend this was real.
that they were just two people sharing a meal with a child they both cared about.
That there was no Torres, no threats, no complicated web of office politics threatening to destroy them. But reality reasserted itself when Ethan's phone buzzed. Another text. Dinner with the kid? You're really not even trying to hide it anymore, but Monday's going to be very interesting. He showed Victoria under the table. She read it and nodded slightly. Torres was confident now, overconfident. Monday would tell them whether their plan had worked or whether they'd just handed him the ammunition to destroy them both. After dinner, Ethan drove Victoria back to her car at the soccer field. Lily had fallen asleep in the back seat, exhausted from her game and her excitement. Thank you for coming tonight, Ethan said. You didn't have to. The plan didn't require dinner. I know. I wanted to. Victoria glanced back at Lily's sleeping form. She's special. You've done an amazing job with her. Some days I feel like I'm barely holding it together. That's what good parents feel like. The ones who think they have it all figured out are usually the ones screwing it up. Victoria turned to face him fully. Can I ask you something? Sure. When this is over, when we've dealt with Torres and the threats stop and we can breathe again, what happens with us? Ethan had been expecting the question, but still didn't have a good answer. I don't know. We agreed to 6 months to see if whatever this connection is survives distance and professionalism. That was before we spent a week pretending to have a relationship, before I watched your daughter play soccer and had dinner with your family, before it started feeling less like pretending and more like rehearsing. Victoria said, I know all the reasons we can't do this. The power dynamics, the professional consequences, the fact that I'm freshly divorced and possibly rebounding, and you're a single parent who doesn't need my complicated baggage. She laughed without humor. But I also know that sitting next to you at that soccer game felt more right than anything I did in 6 years of marriage. Ethan wanted to close the distance between them, wanted to kiss her and find out if the chemistry that had been building all week was real or just a product of heightened emotions and shared danger. But Lily was in the back seat, and they were parked under a streetlight where anyone could see, and Monday's confrontation loomed over everything. Ask me again after Monday, he said finally, when Torres is handled and we know whether we still have jobs, when the immediate crisis is over and we can think clearly about what comes next. And if we don't have jobs after Monday, then we'll have bigger problems than figuring out our relationship status. Victoria smiled, sad but understanding. Monday then. We end this, one way or another. She got out of the car, and Ethan watched her walk to her own vehicle, her silhouette lonely in the parking lot lights. When she'd driven away, he sat for a long moment, listening to Lily's soft breathing from the back seat. I know you're not really asleep, he said quietly. Lily giggled. How'd you know? Because you're my daughter, and I know all your tricks. What did you hear? That you and Miss Victoria like each other, but it's complicated because of work. She sat up, rubbing her eyes. Are you going to marry her like you were married to Mommy? Whoa, slow down. We're not anywhere near that. We're just figuring things out. But you like her. I do. But liking someone isn't enough. There's timing and circumstances and a lot of grown-up stuff you don't need to worry about. Lily was quiet for a moment. I like her too. She's nice. And she makes you smile the way you smile in old pictures with Mommy before Mommy left. Ethan's heart clenched. Yeah? You remember those pictures? I found them in the box in your closet. You looked really happy. She leaned forward, wrapping her arms around his neck from behind. I want you to be that happy again, Daddy, even if it's complicated. Come here. Ethan unbuckled and pulled Lily into the front seat, holding her close. You know what makes me happy? You. Every single day. Soccer goals and volcano projects and late-night talks about whether dogs dream. That's my happiness right there. But you could have Miss Victoria too. You're allowed to be happy in more than one way. Out of the mouths of 7-year-olds, Ethan kissed the top of her head. When did you get so wise? I'm not wise. I just pay attention, she yawned. Can we go home now? I'm actually tired for real this time. Ethan drove them home, carried Lily to bed despite her half-hearted protests that she could walk, and tucked her in with Mr. Whiskers in her favorite blanket. She was asleep before he'd finished reading 2 pages of their current bedtime book. He stood in her doorway for a long moment, watching her chest rise and fall with deep sleep. Everything he'd built over 4 years, The stability, the safety, the simple life that protected her from chaos was at risk. If Monday went wrong, if Torres won, Ethan would lose his job and possibly his ability to provide for Lily the way she deserved. But if they did nothing, Torres would continue escalating. The threats would get worse, and eventually something terrible would happen. So Monday it was. They'd spring their trap, reveal Torres for what he was, and hope like hell that justice prevailed over politics. Ethan spent the weekend preparing. He printed out every text, every email, every piece of evidence they'd compiled. He rehearsed his statement, the calm recitation of facts that would demonstrate Torres's pattern of harassment. He tried not to think about how much was riding on this confrontation or how easily it could all go wrong. Sunday night, Victoria called. "I can't sleep," she admitted. "Keep running through scenarios. What if Jennifer doesn't believe us? What if Torres has evidence we don't know about? What if this whole plan just makes everything worse? Then we deal with it, together." Ethan moved to his bedroom window, looking out at Seattle's lights. "You're not alone in this anymore, Victoria. Whatever happens tomorrow, we face it as partners." "Partners?" she repeated. "I like the sound of that." "Me too." They talked for another hour, not about Monday or Torres or the investigation, but about everything else. Victoria told him about her first job out of college, about the mentor who'd believed in her when everyone else saw her as too young and too female to succeed in finance. Ethan told her about the night Lily was born, how he'd held her for the first time and felt his entire world reorganize around this tiny, perfect human. By the time they hung up, both felt calmer. Ready. Monday morning arrived with gray Seattle rain and the weight of everything at stake. Ethan dropped Lily at school with extra hugs and promises to pick her up on time. She squeezed him tight. "Good luck today, Daddy, with your complicated stuff." "Thanks, Lilypad. Love you." "Love you more." At Meridian Financial, Ethan arrived to find Victoria already waiting in Jennifer Marks's office. The HR director looked grim. "Michael Torres requested this meeting," Jennifer said without preamble. "He claims to have evidence of an inappropriate relationship between you two and wants formal disciplinary action. I've asked him to present his case at 9. Corporate security will be present, as will legal counsel. This is going to get intense. Are you both ready?" Ethan and Victoria exchanged looks. "We're ready," Victoria said. "Then let's finish this." Michael Torres arrived at 9:02 a.m., carrying a leather portfolio and wearing the expression of a man who believed he'd already won. He settled into the chair across from Jennifer's desk with casual confidence, nodding politely at the corporate security officer and legal counsel who flanked the room. His expression flickered when he saw Ethan and Victoria already present, seated together on the small couch against the wall. Recovery was quick, but Ethan caught it, that moment of surprise that his targets had been invited to their own execution. "Thank you all for coming," Jennifer began, her tone carefully neutral. "Mr. Torres, you requested this meeting to present concerns about professional conduct. The floor is yours." Torres opened his portfolio with theatrical precision. "I'll be direct. Over the past 2 weeks, I've observed behavior between Ms. Hale and Mr. Cole that violates company policy regarding relationships between supervisors and subordinates. Despite HR's recent intervention and reassignment, they've continued to engage in conduct that is at best inappropriate and at worst a flagrant disregard for corporate standards." He slid a stack of photographs across Jennifer's desk. Ethan recognized them immediately. Images from the past week. Victoria and him having coffee, walking through the parking garage together, sitting close at Lily's soccer game, entering the Italian restaurant. Each photo was time-stamped and annotated with meticulous detail. "As you can see," Torres continued, "they're not even attempting to hide their relationship. Multiple public displays across multiple days. This isn't a one-time lapse in judgment. It's a pattern of deliberate policy violation." Jennifer examined the photographs without comment. The legal counsel made notes. Victoria's face remained perfectly composed, giving nothing away. "Furthermore," Torres produced his phone, "I have documented text messages showing that their relationship began before the HR intervention. Messages that prove Ms. Hale called Mr. Cole in the middle of the night for personal reasons, that he took her to his private residence, and that she spent the night there." "Those texts are from anonymous sources," Ethan said calmly. "How did you obtain them?" Torres's smile was thin. Anonymous sources concerned about workplace integrity forwarded them to me. The origin is irrelevant. The content is what matters. Actually, the origin is extremely relevant, Victoria interjected, especially if those anonymous sources are the same person making the claims. Torres's jaw tightened. I'm not the one on trial here, Ms. Hale. You are. Both of you. And the evidence speaks for itself. Jennifer set down the photographs. Mr. Torres, these images show two colleagues having coffee and attending a public event. Nothing in them suggests romantic involvement. They're sitting together at a child's soccer game. That's not professional collaboration. Mr. Cole's daughter's soccer game, Jennifer corrected, which Ms. Hale attended as a spectator, unless you're suggesting that watching youth sports is inherently romantic. Torres shifted in his seat. The pattern of behavior shows two people who are told to maintain professional boundaries doing exactly that in public settings. Jennifer leaned forward. What it doesn't show is anything actually inappropriate. Do you have evidence of them being alone together in private, physical contact, romantic communication? I have the texts from anonymous sources that you can't verify or authenticate. Jennifer's voice sharpened. Which brings me to my next question. Why have you been surveilling Ms. Hale and Mr. Cole? I haven't been surveilling anyone. I've merely been observant. You've been in the parking garage at unusual hours. You've photographed them at multiple locations across the city. You've compiled a dossier that required significant time and resources. Jennifer pulled out her own folder. Corporate security has been monitoring suspicious activity, Mr. Torres, including tracking the IP addresses of those anonymous emails and texts you mentioned. The confidence in Torres's expression finally cracked. The emails came from your home network, Jennifer continued. The texts from a burner phone that was purchased at a convenience store 3 blocks from your apartment. We have security footage of the purchase. Would you like to see it? She turned her laptop around. The footage showed Torres at a counter, clearly identifiable, purchasing a prepaid phone with cash. That's circumstantial, Torres said, but his voice lacked conviction. Perhaps. But combined with your documented presence in locations where you photographed Ms. Hale and Mr. Cole, with the timeline of your meeting with Ms. Hale on November 15th, and with the escalating nature of threats made from those anonymous accounts, it creates a very concerning picture. Jennifer's expression was ice. Would you like to explain why you sent threatening texts mentioning Mr. Cole's 7-year-old daughter? All color drained from Torres's face. I never threatened anyone. Those messages were warnings about inappropriate conduct. You mentioned a child's school by name. The security officer spoke for the first time. You implied harm could come to her. That's not a warning. That's a threat. Torres stood abruptly. This is absurd. I came here to report policy violations, and you're treating me like a criminal. Sit down, Mr. Torres. Jennifer's voice could have frozen water. We're not finished. He sat, but his hands were shaking now. Victoria spoke, her voice steady and cold. You propositioned me on November 15th. When I rejected you, you told me I should be grateful for the attention. Do you remember that conversation? That's not what happened. I have the meeting recorded. Victoria pulled out her phone. I started recording after the first inappropriate comment. Would you like me to play it for everyone? Torres's face went ashen. You can't record private conversations. Washington is a 2-party consent state for phone calls. But for in-person conversations in the workplace where there's no reasonable expectation of privacy, 1-party consent is sufficient. Victoria's smile was razor sharp. I checked with legal before I started recording. I wanted to make sure everything was admissible. The legal counsel nodded confirmation. So here's what actually happened, Victoria continued. You propositioned me. I rejected you and warned you never to try again. You responded by engineering a reassignment to my team, undermining my authority in meetings, and when you saw an opportunity to destroy my career, you took it. But it wasn't enough to just get me fired. You wanted me humiliated, destroyed. So you stalked me, photographed me, and when you saw Mr. Cole helping me, you saw a way to take down 2 people with 1 manufactured scandal. This is all speculation. It's all documented. Ethan pulled out his own folder, the compiled evidence from their investigation. Every threatening text, every email, every instance of you watching us. We have timestamps, patterns, a complete timeline of your harassment. And we have witnesses who saw you in locations you had no professional reason to be. He slid the folder to Jennifer, who began reviewing its contents with the legal counsel and security officer. Torres's composure was completely shattered now. You set me up. This whole week, you were performing for my benefit. We were conducting our lives while documenting your stalking, Victoria corrected. There's a difference. You admitted to HR that you're attracted to each other. That's a conflict of interest. Attraction isn't a policy violation, Jennifer said, looking up from the evidence folder. Acting on that attraction in ways that compromise professional judgment would be. But from everything I've seen, Ms. Hale and Mr. Cole have maintained appropriate boundaries despite mutual attraction. They've been honest about their feelings while being professional in their conduct. That's exactly what we expect from employees. She closed the folder and looked directly at Torres. You, on the other hand, have engaged in harassment, stalking, making threats against a minor, and attempting to weaponize HR policies to destroy colleagues who rejected you professionally and personally. That is absolutely a terminable offense. Torres shot to his feet again. You can't fire me. I've been with this company for 15 years, which makes your conduct even more egregious. You knew better. Jennifer stood as well, her 5'4" frame somehow dominating the room. Michael Torres, you are terminated effective immediately. Security will escort you to collect your personal belongings. You have 1 hour to vacate the premises. Any attempt to contact Ms. Hale, Mr. Cole, or any member of their families will result in legal action, including restraining orders and potential criminal charges. This is a legal termination. This is termination for cause with extensive documentation. Feel free to consult an attorney. Jennifer nodded to the security officer. Please escort Mr. Torres out. Torres looked around the room wildly, searching for allies or sympathy. Finding none, he grabbed his portfolio and stalked toward the door. But he paused at the threshold, turning back to Victoria with venom in his eyes. You think you've won? You're a divorced woman pushing 40 who can't keep a man and had to seduce a subordinate for attention. Everyone will know what you really are. Victoria's expression didn't change. I'm a woman who just ended the career of a man who thought he could intimidate me into submission. Everyone will know what you really are too. And I'm perfectly comfortable with that comparison. Torres's face twisted with rage, but the security officer's hand on his elbow propelled him into the hallway. His voice echoed back loud and bitter, making threats that would probably add to his legal troubles. When the door closed, silence filled Jennifer's office like a held breath. Finally, Jennifer sat down heavily. Well, that was unpleasant, but necessary, the legal counsel added. We have more than enough documentation to defend against any wrongful termination claims. And frankly, with the threats against a minor, he's lucky we're not pressing charges. We still could, Ethan said quietly. If you think it would help. Jennifer considered. Let's see if he goes quietly. If he continues harassing you or makes any more threats, we'll absolutely pursue criminal charges. But sometimes the best outcome is permanent separation and moving forward. Victoria's professional mask finally cracked. She pressed her hands to her face, breathing deeply. It's really over? He's gone? He's gone, Jennifer confirmed, and I owe you both an apology. I should have seen the pattern earlier. Should have questioned his sudden interest in your team, his presence in unusual locations. I failed to protect you from a predator in your own workplace. You gave us the room to investigate, Ethan said. When we came to you with our plan, you could have shut us down. Instead, you trusted us and provided backup. That's not failure. It's also not how I prefer to handle these situations. I'd rather prevent harassment than respond to it. Jennifer pulled out 2 new folders, which brings me to next steps. Ms. Hale, Global Markets is still yours if you want it. David Chen has been very complimentary about your work this past week, but if you'd prefer to return to your original team, we can arrange that. Victoria glanced at Ethan. What happens to our reporting structure if I go back? You don't, Jennifer said simply. You've been promoted, Director of Strategic Initiatives, reporting directly to the CFO. New division, new mandate, complete autonomy. No supervisory relationship with Mr. Cole at all. Victoria's eyes widened. Director, that's overdue. You've been performing at that level for 2 years. The board approved it this morning, pending resolution of this situation. Jennifer smiled slightly. Congratulations, you've earned it. She turned to Ethan. Mr. Cole, you're being promoted to senior analyst with a substantial raise. Additionally, the Westfield presentation that you authored will be presented by you, not as Torres's oversight, but as your independent work. The client meeting is Wednesday. Think you can handle it? Ethan felt like the floor had dropped out from under him. Yes, absolutely. Thank you. Don't thank me. Thank your work product. It's exceptional. Jennifer stood, signaling the meeting's end. You're both free to go. Take the rest of the day if you need it. Process everything. And please, for the love of everything holy, maintain those professional boundaries you've been working so hard to preserve. Her expression softened slightly. Though if you decide to pursue a personal relationship now that the power dynamic has been eliminated, HR just asks that you disclose it properly. We're not opposed to office relationships when they're between equals who manage the conflict of interest appropriately. Ethan and Victoria left Jennifer's office in a daze. They walked to the elevator in silence, rode down to the lobby without speaking, and found themselves standing on the sidewalk outside Meridian Financial, with Seattle's gray morning turning to cautious sunshine. Did that actually just happen? Victoria asked. I think so. We got Torres fired. We got promoted. We survived. Ethan turned to face her fully. We actually survived. The tension that had been coiling in Victoria's frame for weeks finally released. She laughed, and it was real laughter, the kind that came from relief and disbelief and joy all mixed together. We did it. We actually did it. You did it. The recording of Torres was brilliant. I didn't know you had that. I didn't know if I'd ever need it. But after that meeting, I couldn't shake the feeling that he was dangerous. So I documented everything, just in case. Victoria's laughter faded to something more serious. I'm sorry I dragged you into this, into my mess with Torres and the divorce and all of it. You didn't drag me. I chose to help, and I'd choose it again. Ethan checked his watch. It was only 10:30 a.m. The day stretched ahead, suddenly full of possibility instead of dread. Do you have plans for the rest of the day? I was going to go home and sleep for approximately 16 hours. Why? Lily has a half day at school, gets out at noon. I was thinking of taking her to the aquarium this afternoon, celebrating that the crisis is over without telling her what we were actually dealing with. He met Victoria's eyes. Want to come? To the aquarium? With you and Lily? No pressure, no performance, no investigation or professional obligations. Just three people who've become friends looking at fish. Ethan paused. Though, full disclosure, if you come, Lily's going to read all sorts of romantic implications into it. She already does. She drew us holding hands, remember? Victoria smiled. The aquarium sounds perfect, but Ethan, we should talk about what happens next, now that we're not supervisor and subordinate anymore. I know, but maybe we talk about it after fish, when we're not standing outside the building where we almost lost everything? After fish, Victoria agreed. They went to the aquarium, picking up Lily from school with the 7-year-old's delighted squeals filling Ethan's car. Lily chattered nonstop about her morning, about the reading quiz she'd aced, and the friend drama at lunch, and how she'd been hoping Miss Victoria would visit again soon. Did you hear my wish? Lily asked Victoria seriously. I wish for you to come back, and here you are. That means my wishes are magic. Extremely magic, Victoria confirmed, catching Ethan's eye over Lily's head with an expression that said, This child is going to be the death of me. At the Seattle Aquarium, they wandered through dim corridors illuminated by tank lights, watching jellyfish pulse and octopi change colors and sea otters perform their endless underwater ballet. Lily pressed her face to every glass wall, asking questions faster than either adult could answer them. Why do jellyfish glow? How do fish breathe underwater? Can octopi really open jars? If I became a marine biologist instead of a geologist, astronaut, veterinarian, would you be disappointed? That last question was directed at Ethan, who crouched beside his daughter. I could never be disappointed in you, Lily Pad. You can be anything you want, even if you change your mind 17 times. 17 is a lot of times. You've got your whole life. 17 is just getting started. They ate lunch in the aquarium cafe, and Lily regaled Victoria with her complete marine biology knowledge, which was impressive for a 7-year-old and hilariously inaccurate in places. Victoria listened with genuine interest, asking follow-up questions and treating Lily's theories about dolphin communication with appropriate seriousness. Watching them together, Ethan felt something slot into place in his chest. This was what he'd been missing without knowing it was absent. Not just a partner, but someone who saw Lily as a whole person worth engaging with, not just an accessory to his life. After lunch, Lily spotted the touch tank and raced ahead. Ethan and Victoria followed at a slower pace, comfortable in their silence. "She's easy to love," Victoria said quietly. "Your daughter, she's herself so completely. No filters, no pretense. It's refreshing. She gets that from not having to perform for anyone. I've tried really hard to let her be whoever she is without pressure to be anything else." "You've succeeded. She's remarkable." Victoria watched Lily shriek with delight as she touched a starfish. "And she clearly adores you. The way she looks at you when she's excited about something, making sure you're seeing what she's seeing. That's love, Ethan. Pure and simple." "I'm lucky. I know I am." He turned to Victoria. "But I've also been lonely. Not all the time and not in ways that interfere with being Lily's dad. But there's been this space in my life that I've told myself didn't matter because I had her and work and that was enough. And now? Now I'm wondering if maybe I was wrong, if maybe there's room for both. For being Lily's father and also being someone who has his own life and relationships." He caught her hand, their fingers intertwining naturally. "For being someone who maybe takes chances on complicated things that might be worth it." Victoria looked down at their joined hands. "We're not supervisor and subordinate anymore." "No, we're not. And Jennifer said if we pursue this, we just need to disclose it properly." She did say that. "So theoretically, there's no professional barrier anymore, just personal ones. Like the fact that I'm freshly divorced and probably rebounding, and you're a single father who needs stability, not my chaos." Ethan turned her to face him fully. Around them, families moved through the aquarium, children laughed. The soft sounds of water and life created a cocoon of privacy in the public space. "You're not chaos, Victoria. You're someone who's been through hell and came out stronger. Someone who fought back against harassment and won. Someone who recorded an inappropriate meeting because you knew documentation matters. Who spent a week helping me investigate a stalker. Who watched my daughter play soccer and listened to her talk about marine biology like it was the most important thing in the world." He squeezed her hand. "That's not chaos. That's someone I want in my life. Even with all my baggage, the divorce, the career obsession, the fact that I'm still figuring out who I am outside of work. Everyone has baggage. Mine includes an ex-wife who abandoned us and a daughter who will absolutely interrogate you about your intentions. We're all figuring ourselves out." Ethan smiled. "But I think we might figure it out better together than apart." Victoria's eyes shimmered. "I haven't done this in a long time. The dating thing, the letting someone in thing, I'm going to be terrible at it. I haven't dated since Amanda left. I'm going to be worse." "So we'll be terrible together." Sounds perfect. They stood there holding hands in an aquarium while Lily played with starfish and made an unspoken decision to try. To take the connection that had formed in crisis and see if it could survive normalcy. To be brave instead of safe. "Daddy, Miss Victoria, come touch the starfish. They're squishy." They joined Lily at the touch tank, and Ethan showed Victoria how to gently brush the starfish's surface. Her face lit up with the same wonder that had captivated him from the beginning, that ability to be fully present in a moment without walls or performance. "It's amazing," she breathed. "I've lived in Seattle for 10 years and never came here, never made time." "You're making time now," Ethan said. "I am, and it's—" She looked at him, then at Lily, then back at the starfish under her fingers. "It's really nice." They spent 2 more hours at the aquarium, and by the time they left, Lily was exhausted and chattering about becoming a marine biologist who specialized in octopi. In the parking lot, she hugged Victoria goodbye with the unself-conscious affection of childhood. "Will you come to my next soccer game?" Lily asked. "It's on Saturday. We're playing the Rockets, and they're really good, but I think we can beat them." Victoria glanced at Ethan, a question in her eyes. He nodded slightly. "I'll be there," Victoria promised. "Wouldn't miss it." After they'd buckled Lily into the car and she'd immediately fallen asleep, Ethan walked Victoria to her vehicle. "So," he said, "we're doing this?" "We're doing this," Victoria confirmed. Slowly, carefully, with full disclosure to HR and appropriate boundaries between professional and personal. Very romantic. I'll work on my romantic gestures. Give me time. She leaned against her car. Can I take you both to dinner this weekend, after the soccer game? Somewhere nice, not just pizza? Lily would love that. So would I. It's a date then, an actual, official, disclosed to HR date. The best kind. Victoria reached up, her hand cupping Ethan's jaw. For a moment he thought she might kiss him, right there in the parking lot in full daylight. Instead, she just held his gaze, communicating everything they weren't quite ready to say aloud. Thank you, she whispered, for seeing me, for helping me, for being exactly who you are. Thank you for calling me that night, for trusting me when you had no reason to. Best worst decision I ever made. They parted with promises to text later, to figure out the details of Saturday, to navigate this new territory together. Ethan drove home with Lily sleeping in the back seat and something warm and hopeful blooming in his chest. That night, after Lily was in bed with Mr. Whiskers and stories about dolphins, Ethan sat on his couch with a beer and his phone. He'd received a text from Jennifer Marks with the formal offer letter for his promotion, the details of his raise, and information about the Westfield presentation. It was official. Real. His career hadn't just survived, it had advanced. Another text came through, this one from Victoria. Made it home safe. Already missing the starfish and other things. Ethan typed back. Other things? You'll have to be more specific. Spending time with you, with Lily, feeling like myself instead of just a title. You're always yourself. Maybe you're just remembering what that feels like. Maybe. Talk tomorrow? Definitely. Sleep well, Victoria. You too, Ethan. And thank you for everything. He set down his phone and looked around his modest apartment. Nothing had changed physically. Same furniture, same coffee table with crayon marks, same photos of Lily on the walls. But everything felt different, lighter. Like possibility had moved in and made itself comfortable. Wednesday's Westfield presentation went flawlessly. Ethan stood before the client team and delivered his analysis with confidence he'd been building for 3 years. The clients asked sharp questions. He had sharper answers. By the meeting's end, they'd agreed to move forward with Meridian for a 5-year contract worth millions. Michael Torres, who'd been escorted from the building on Monday, would never know that his attempt to steal credit had backfired so spectacularly. Ethan felt a brief moment of satisfaction before letting it go. Torres wasn't worth the emotional energy anymore. Friday afternoon, Jennifer Marks pulled Ethan aside after a team meeting. I wanted you to know that Torres attempted to file a wrongful termination suit yesterday, she said. Our legal team shut it down within hours. The documented harassment and threats were more than sufficient to defend our decision. He's not coming back, and he's not getting a settlement. Good, Ethan said simply. I also wanted to apologize again. The system failed both you and Ms. Hale. We should have caught Torres's behavior earlier. You caught it when it mattered. That's what counts. Ethan paused. And Jennifer? Thank you for believing us, for giving us room to investigate, for being on our side when we needed it. That's my job, though I hope we never have to deal with something like this again. She smiled slightly. How are things with you and Ms. Hale, professionally and personally? Professionally, great. She's brilliant in her new role. Personally, Ethan couldn't help smiling. We're taking it slow, figuring things out. But it's good, really good. I'm glad. You both deserve happiness after everything you've been through. Jennifer's expression turned more serious. Just remember to keep those boundaries clear at work. I know you will, but I have to say it anyway. Crystal clear, I promise. Saturday's soccer game arrived with perfect Seattle autumn weather. Crisp air, blue skies, leaves turning gold and red. Lily's team faced the Rockets in what turned out to be the most competitive game of the season. Victoria arrived with hot chocolate for everyone and cheered loud enough to make Lily beam from the field. The game ended in a tie, which Lily declared was almost as good as winning because at least we didn't lose. They went to dinner at a nicer restaurant than their usual pizza place, somewhere with cloth napkins and a menu that didn't include crayons. Lily was on her best behavior, using please and thank you and asking Victoria about her week with genuine interest. Victoria answered honestly, telling Lily about her new job and the challenges of learning a new team, treating the 7-year-old like a capable audience. After dinner, they walked along the waterfront, Lily skipping ahead while Ethan and Victoria followed at a slower pace. Their hands found each other naturally, fingers intertwining. "She's going to ask if we're dating," Ethan said. "Probably." "What are you going to tell her?" "The truth, that we like each other and we're seeing where it goes. That it's new and we're taking it slow, but yes, we're dating." Victoria squeezed his hand. "I can live with that answer." "Good, because here she comes." Lily bounded back to them, her eyes immediately dropping to their joined hands. Her grin could have powered the city. "I knew it. I knew you liked each other." She bounced on her toes. "Does this mean Miss Victoria is your girlfriend now?" Ethan looked at Victoria, raising an eyebrow in question. She smiled and nodded slightly. "Yes, Lily Pad. Victoria is my girlfriend now." "Can I tell Emma and Mrs. Chen and everyone at school?" "You can tell whoever you want, but remember it's new, so we're still figuring things out." That's what grown-ups always say when they're nervous. Lily grabbed both their hands, pulling them forward. "Come on! I want to show you the place where the seals sometimes swim by." They let themselves be pulled along by a 7-year-old's enthusiasm, and somewhere between the waterfront and the seal viewing area, the last of Ethan's reservations dissolved. This was right. Complicated and new and uncertain, but fundamentally right. Over the next few months, they found their rhythm. Victoria came to Lily's soccer games and school events. Ethan helped Victoria navigate her new role, offering insights from his analyst perspective. They had date nights when Lily was with Mrs. Chen or at sleepovers. They had family dinners when the three of them cooked together in Ethan's small kitchen. It wasn't always smooth. Victoria had moments where work consumed her and she forgot to text back for hours. Ethan had moments where single-parent exhaustion made him short-tempered. They argued about small things, whose turn it was to pick the restaurant, whether Lily should be allowed more screen time, how to balance their careers with their relationship. But they always talked through it, always came back to the fundamental truth that had formed that first night when Victoria called for help. They were better together than apart. 6 months after Torres's firing, Ethan and Victoria stood in the kitchen of Victoria's condo. She'd bought a new place after the divorce, something smaller and more her style, making breakfast while Lily set the table with careful precision. "Daddy says you're moving in together next month," Lily announced, folding napkins with exaggerated care. "Is that true?" Ethan and Victoria exchanged glances. They'd been discussing it for weeks but hadn't officially told Lily yet. "We're thinking about it," Victoria said carefully. "But only if you're comfortable with it, Lily. This would be a big change for all of us." "Would I get my own room?" "You'd get the biggest bedroom," Ethan confirmed, "and we'd decorate it however you want." Lily considered this seriously. "And Miss Victoria would be there every morning for breakfast and stuff?" "Every morning," Victoria said, "if that's okay with you." "And you'd both come to my soccer games?" "Every single one." Lily nodded decisively. "Okay, you can move in, but I get to approve the paint color for my room, and we need to get a dog." "A dog?" Ethan laughed. "Since when do we need a dog?" "Since forever. All families need dogs. It's like a rule." Lily looked between them with perfect 7-year-old logic. "Please? I'll take care of it and everything." Victoria caught Ethan's eye over Lily's head. They talked about this too, about how building a life together meant making decisions as a family, not just as a couple. About how Lily's voice mattered in shaping their future. "We'll talk about it," Ethan said, which was parent code for "we're probably going to get a dog." Lily's shriek of delight suggested she understood the code perfectly. Later, after Lily had run off to play, and they were cleaning up breakfast dishes, Victoria leaned against Ethan's shoulder. "We're really doing this," she said. "Moving in together, becoming a family. Getting a dog, apparently. Having second thoughts?" "Not even for a second." She turned to face him fully. "A year ago, I was drunk in a bar, cornered by someone who wouldn't take no for an answer, calling the one person I knew would help even though I had no right to ask. And now I'm here, with you, with Lily, building something real." "Best worst decision you ever made," Ethan reminded her, echoing her words from months ago. "Best decision, period." Victoria kissed him softly. "Thank you for answering that call, for seeing past the VP mask. for being patient while I figured out who I am outside of work. Thank you for trusting me, for being brave enough to tear down your walls, for loving Lily almost as much as I do. Almost? I'm working on surpassing you. Never going to happen. I've got a 4-year head start. They stood in Victoria's kitchen, holding each other while morning light streamed through windows and Lily's laughter drifted from the living room. It was ordinary and perfect, and everything Ethan had stopped believing he could have. That night, after Lily was asleep and they were curled together on the couch, Victoria pulled out her phone. "I've been thinking about something," she said. "That anonymous person who left you the envelope pointing toward Torres. We never figured out who that was." "I know. I've wondered about it too. I think it was someone on my old team, someone who'd been watching Torres behave inappropriately for a while and didn't know how to report it without becoming a target themselves." Victoria scrolled through her contacts. "I want to send a general thank you. Let them know we handled it and they're safe." "That's a good idea." She typed out a message to the team email list. "To whoever left the envelope that helped us stop harassment in our workplace. Thank you. Your courage in providing that information protected people who needed protecting. You made a difference. If you ever need anything, my door is always open. Victoria." Within an hour, she had a response from an email address she didn't recognize. Just 2 words. Stay safe. They never found out who'd helped them, but it didn't matter. Someone had seen injustice and taken action. Someone had been brave when it counted. That was enough. The move happened in stages over the next month. Ethan and Lily packed up their modest apartment in Fremont, saying goodbye to Mrs. Chen with promises to visit often and genuine tears on both sides. Victoria made space in her condo, clearing closets and drawers, transforming the spare bedroom into Lily's room with purple paint and constellation stickers on the ceiling. The first morning waking up in their new home, Ethan found Victoria already in the kitchen making coffee, Lily at the table with her homework, and felt something settle in his chest. This was it. This was family. Not the traditional version he'd imagined when he married Amanda, but something better, something built on honesty and respect and the courage to be vulnerable. "Good morning," Victoria said, handing him coffee exactly how he liked it. "Lily and I were discussing the possibility of a golden retriever versus a Labrador. She makes compelling arguments for both." "We haven't said yes to a dog yet," Ethan pointed out. "Daddy, we're getting a dog. Everyone knows it. We're just negotiating details now." Lily didn't even look up from her homework. "Miss Victoria agrees with me." "I might have said golden retrievers are excellent family dogs," Victoria admitted. In a purely theoretical conversation, Ethan looked between them, his daughter and his girlfriend already conspiring together, and surrendered to the inevitable. "Fine. We'll go to the shelter this weekend. Look at dogs. But no promises." Lily's squeal of joy was worth the capitulation. They got the dog, of course. A 3-year-old golden retriever named Max who'd been surrendered when his previous owners moved. He integrated into their family like he'd always been there, sleeping at the foot of Lily's bed and following Victoria around the condo with devoted loyalty. Work continued to thrive for both of them. Ethan's Westfield success led to more high-profile projects. Victoria's new division became known for innovative thinking and strategic initiatives that pushed Meridian ahead of competitors. They maintained strict professional boundaries at the office, but everyone knew they were together. It became just another fact of office life, unremarkable and uncontroversial. A year after that first midnight phone call, Ethan stood in Victoria's condo, their condo now, and watched her help Lily with a science project. This year's assignment was more complex, a working model of the solar system with motorized planets. "And Jupiter has to orbit slower than Mars because it's farther from the sun," Lily was explaining. "Miss Patterson says we need to make it proportional." "So we need to calculate orbital periods relative to Earth's year," Victoria said, already pulling up a calculator. "Let's see. Jupiter takes about 12 Earth years to orbit, so if Earth completes 1 rotation every minute." They bent over the project together, 2 heads close as they worked through the math. Ethan felt his phone buzz. Text from Jennifer Marks. "Board meeting next week. Your promotion to lead analyst is being finalized. Congratulations." Another text came through, this one from his mother, who'd recently reconnected after years of distance. "How's my favorite son and my favorite granddaughter? Send pictures." Life had a funny way of giving you exactly what you needed when you stopped chasing what you thought you wanted. Ethan had spent years focused on survival, keeping Lily safe, keeping his job, keeping their small family afloat. He'd never imagined thriving, never imagined building something bigger and richer and more complicated than just getting by. But here he was, promoted, in love, part of a family that looked nothing like what he'd planned but felt more right than anything he could have designed. "Daddy, come help," Lily called. "We need someone to hold Jupiter while Victoria glues the support arm." He joined them at the table, holding planetary bodies while Victoria applied precision engineering and Lily directed operations with benevolent authority. Max settled at their feet, tail thumping contentedly. Through the window, Seattle's lights began to glow as evening approached. "I love this," Victoria said quietly so only Ethan could hear. "This life, this family, all of it." "Me too," he said. "Even the complicated parts. Especially the complicated parts." Later that night, after Lily was asleep and the solar system was drying and Max was snoring on his bed, Ethan and Victoria stood on the balcony looking out at the city. She leaned into him, his arm around her shoulders, both comfortable in the silence. "I've been thinking," Victoria said finally, "about that night, when I called you from the bar." "What about it?" "If I hadn't called you, none of this would exist. We'd still be boss and subordinate, maintaining professional distance. I'd probably still be married to Marcus or freshly divorced and alone. You'd still be the single dad doing everything by yourself." She turned to look at him. "One phone call changed everything." "You changed everything," Ethan corrected, "by being brave enough to ask for help, by trusting someone when you had no reason to trust anyone. And you changed everything by answering, by choosing kindness when you could have chosen safety." Victoria reached up, cupping his face. "I'm so glad you answered, Ethan, so grateful for every complicated, messy, beautiful thing that came after." "Best worst decision you ever made?" "Best decision, period. No qualifications needed." She kissed him, soft and sweet and full of promise. "I love you. You know that, right? I don't say it enough, but I do. I love you and Lily and this strange, wonderful family we've built. I love you too. Have loved you probably since that first night when you cried on my couch, and let me see the real you." Ethan pulled her closer. "We did good, Victoria. We took something terrifying and turned it into something beautiful." "We did," she agreed, "and we're going to keep doing it. For a long time." Inside, Max barked once in his sleep, chasing dream rabbits. Lily mumbled something about orbital mechanics. The city hummed with life and possibility. And Ethan Cole, single father and senior analyst, who'd once thought survival was the best he could hope for, held the woman he loved and felt gratitude for every choice that had led them here. One phone call at 2 a.m., one decision to help instead of hide, one night of vulnerability that cracked open possibility. That's all it took to change everything. And somewhere in the city, in offices and apartments and lives they'd never know, other people were making similar choices, answering calls they could ignore, offering help when it would be easier to walk away. Being brave when safe was so much more comfortable. Ethan hoped they found what he'd found. Hoped they discovered that sometimes the scariest moments led to the most beautiful outcomes. That vulnerability could build something stronger than control ever could. That letting someone see your messy, complicated, imperfect life was the bravest thing you could do. And that sometimes the person you helped save ended up saving you right back.